Hey guys. This is part 4 of What If Naruto Has Hashirama's Memories and Abilities. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 19. Odo shinobi were dying, dropping dead like useless flies. The wide main street was clearly divided. On one side there was a veritable army of shinobi trying to rush forward and defend their village, but they were only driven back, taking dreadful casualties. Uzumaki Naruto was tearing through their ranks as he countered every move effortlessly, retaliating with lightning-quick and fatal blows. His long golden hair whipped around as he cut through 7 chunin rapidly, seeming like a blur even to trained jounin. Still they came upon him, almost awing him with their stubborn suicidal nature. He was not even breathing hard as he effortlessly kicked away another shinobi, so hard that he was flung through another platoon of enemies, taking them with him as he smashed into a house. Kakashi had already resorted to ninjutsu, and Naruto could see flashes of lightning and fire a few streets to his left. He could feel the copy ninja's life force as strong as ever, and knew that he was in no real danger. "Who are you?" shouted an Odo jounin as he led a new group of shinobi. Naruto closed his eyes as he felt another 36 surround him, hiding in alleys and cleverly concealing themselves behind houses. His sensing had developed to such an extent that he could even tell the composition of a jutsu by just feeling it. These poor fools could not really hide from him. "Who I am does not matter," he said calmly, and he sheathed his sword disappointedly. "Are you truly all that Orochimaru has to offer? Is this what Akatsuki has been doing all this time? If that is the case, I must say I am sorely disappointed." "Fool, you will die for attacking us so!" shouted the shinobi angrily. "We will show you the consequences of attacking our village so brazenly. Everyone, change to level 1, he ordered loudly, and Naruto could feel a familiar evil chakra shroud the entire street. Markings were coating the skin of all the shinobi, and he sighed as he realized that he now faced about 40 shinobi who used the cursed seal. "Pathetic, just pathetic," said Kurama derisively in his mind. Naruto had to agree upon that point. He could even sense a corrupted form of senjutsu coming off those seals. The earth shook for a moment, and his eyes widened as he sensed Susanoo being used. He needed to end this fast and go to help Sasuke if he needed it. "You do not know who I am," he warned quietly. "Leave now. Those weak seals of yours won't really help you." A foul purple shroud of chakra covered the street, and its malicious essence seemed to force itself on Naruto. He smiled grimly, and disappeared with a sigh. The loud-mouthed shinobi swung at him confidently, but he caught the arm with his palm and looked at it critically. "You are a bit stronger than before, but not really by much," he observed. As the other curse-sealed ninja dashed towards him, he flung the one he had stalled towards them. This time he flowed into the nature style, catching punches effortlessly and returning fatal blows. It was continuous, like the flow of wind over a forest, like the flow of water into an ocean. He flowed through the mass of shinobi, and they were flung all over the village by the force of his taijutsu. "Use mokuton and be done with it. Or at least let me out. This game of yours is really boring, you know," complained the Kyuubi. Naruto rolled his eyes as he caught a kunai aimed at his head without even looking and tossed it back at its owner. The abrupt fading of life force told him that it had found its mark. "They are running away from me now. Finally they get the point," mused Naruto as he felt the shinobi of the village retreat from him and felt several large groups of them cluster in different locations around the village. Maybe they were making up a new plan to attack him. But they are not what I would want Konoha shinobi to be. Their courage and devotion is not exactly what I would call astounding. They are noob-nin, you moron. Wearing an Oto Hitai does not make them Oto shinobi. Their first loyalty is to themselves," said Kurama disdainfully. "I can feel evil emanating from that ground under there. It could even be that Rikudo curse Susanoo. I hate that thing." He could feel Kakashi approaching him rapidly, and began to walk towards where he felt Sasuke's chakra. No one attacked him for the moment, but he could feel apprehension and suspense cloud over the entire village. "You are telling me, Fox. I had to fight that thing more than I care to remember," said Naruto drily as he walked faster towards Sasuke's location with senses at full strength. It would not do for him to shunshin into one of Orochimaru's traps. "They seem to be rather afraid of you," came a lazy voice from behind him. Naruto turned and found Kakashi cleaning his katana and sheathing it slowly. He could also see bodies of about 200 ninjas strewn around like crops devastated by a tornado. "I guess my strength has increased greatly in these past 3 years," admitted Naruto. The trail of destruction he had left behind was not as much as Madara would have done. His old friend was just naturally destructive when it came to battles. But then again, he was not deliberately destructive like Madara used to be. "Tell that all you want to yourself," snorted Kurama. "I remember the time you released all 9 of us onto that village that ordered your daughter's death. You left no one alive there as far as I can remember. It was just a large crater in the ground after you were done with it." "It was one of my darker moments," sighed Naruto and cast those thoughts away as he cleared his mind. The past was not real. At least that was what he kept telling himself. Every time he thought that Kurama would laugh at him in merriment. Here he was, denying the past willfully, when he himself was a legend of the past come back from the pure world. "Are you all right?" questioned Kakashi gently, seeing that he was somewhat troubled. Naruto nodded. There was little time for psychological soothsaying at the moment. Those foolish shinobi might attack any moment now. That would be detrimental to the plan. "I am fine," said Naruto. "I can feel several clusters of opponents skulking around in various areas of the village. Our job is over. Sasuke is inside Orochimaru's base. Is there any point to our distraction anymore?" "Yes," said Kakashi. "The longer we keep them off Sasuke's back, the easier a time he will have. Unless he encounters Orochimaru, of course," he said with a frown. Naruto looked at Kakashi, a simple plan forming in his head. "Let us take this distraction one step further then," he said, as he raised his hand in the tiger seal. "We make enough noise that Orochimaru himself will come running here. Then I deal with that snake and his subordinates here and now. We finish our mission and go back to Konoha," he proposed proudly. "Good plan. Except if pain comes, you will turn this fight into another natural disaster. Do not forget that even he has had 3 years to hone his skills, and that Itachi will accompany him as well. The outcome of that fight will not matter very much if you level several kilometers of the surrounding fertile area," said the Kyuubi seriously. By the looks of it, even Kakashi had come to the same conclusion. After a moment of doubt, he had made his decision. "This is a gamble we have to take. If pain comes, I will think of something," he finished lamely. Kakashi nodded disbelievingly at his reassuring reply, but did not stop him as he gently laid his hand on the earth. "Doton Jimin Kara Dainashi," he intoned, and the village shuddered as its foundations shook violently. The buildings crumbled despairingly as what would be termed a lethal earthquake rocked the village. Several weakly built dwellings collapsed in a heap as Naruto unleashed destruction upon Otogakure. Screams of disgruntled shinobi were drowned by the noise of the breaking earth. He was careful enough not to extend his jutsu to Orochimaru's base, where he could feel Sasuke's life force. But then, another voice yelled out a counter-technique behind him, its voice ringing out in the village. "Doton, Anti no Koa." He released his jutsu immediately, and the remaining tremors were quieted down by the intruder's technique. It seemed that his plan had worked quite well, and had drawn out the snake Sennin from his hidey hole, as Tsunade had put it. Orochimaru stared at him with absolute anger, and Naruto cracked his neck as he stared at the S-class nuke. "Hello, Orochimaru. I seem to be making a habit of razing your village to the ground," greeted Naruto cheerfully. Kakashi looked at him with a resigned expression, figuring that he was one of the very few who could taunt Orochimaru so openly and get away with it. "Naruto-kun," hissed the snake Sennin, his long and very wet tongue dripping snake saliva as he licked some non-existent thing. I have no idea how you can do the same futile thing repeatedly and fail to achieve your goal. If I were the one assaulting Konoha, then I would have finished it by now. Can you please make up your mind about my village? Oh, I have made up my mind, said Naruto. Your village is irrelevant to me. I can destroy it any day I want, as you well know. I want something else, something far more important than the destruction of one of your bases. Ah, murmured Orochimaru. Sasuke-kun is here for her? I see. It is all going as planned. What plan? Asked Kakashi lazily, but both his eyes were watching Orochimaru quite alertly. Orochimaru chuckled creepily, and Naruto raised his brow. You can stop chuckling so creepily, Orochimaru. I believe that your forces are all dispersing like the cowards that they are. Sorry about that, by the way, he said, not sounding sorry at all. Orochimaru did not even seem remotely concerned that his village built with such painstaking effort was being reduced to nothing more than an overturned anthill. They have served their purpose, said the Sannin dismissively. Then he licked out again, looking hungrily at Naruto. I can feel your physical energy, Naruto-kun. I have always wanted to ask you, how did you get that body of yours? Naruto looked confused at this question. The usual way, I'd assume. Quit staring at me like that, Orochimaru, he snapped at the snake Sannin. Orochimaru shook his head, still chuckling. You remind me of Jiraiya, right down to his idiocy and incompetence. Did you know that your precious Sasuke-kun is currently fighting Akatsuki? I hope you are familiar with a certain Hashigaki Kisame. You are not going to take that, are you? I would ask you to save yourself a lot of trouble and just kill that creep. But you are bent on honoring that pervert's wish, aren't you? True, concurred Naruto. Orochimaru, thank you for your information. I will now go and help Sasuke after I leave you to bite the dust, he said kindly. He glanced at Kakashi, who disappeared with a nod. Kisame is no one Kakashi can take on and win, Naruto-kun, said Orochimaru. I fear you will be losing two on your side today. There is certainly no way I will let you go past me now, he stated, and Naruto was appalled to see that he was only playing. As the Shodai Hokage, such wanton evil was beyond his understanding. He did not understand how one could throw away their subordinates so easily. Yamada no Jutsu, said Orochimaru with a ram's seal. Naruto stared as the snake Sannin morphed into a large white mass, which then transmuted into a huge abomination. Orochimaru had turned himself into an 8-headed snake that towered high in the air. If he were to make a guess, he would say it was as big as Shikaku. Orochimaru's strange chakra seemed to literally leak off the massive snakes, and he could feel the remaining shinobi of Otogekyu leave the village discreetly. Not wasting much time, huh? He said, looking at the huge snake whose centermost head seemed to open with a huge hiss, and he saw Orochimaru slither out partially and stare at him gloatingly. This was getting a little out of hand, and he could feel flickers of the chakra of Samahata below him. He had expected Orochimaru slither away like a snake, not fight like one. He stared impassively at the massive snakes. Unless he wanted to bury Sasuke and Kakashi under a mountain of debris, he could not simply defeat it with mokuton. Until their mission was complete, he had to keep up with this jutsu. I need to fight it cleverly, without causing much damage to the earth. Once they are done with their mission, I will defeat Orochimaru. Mokuton, Mokubunshin no Jutsu, he said, and one wood clone was born out of him and rushed out and towards Kakashi. He had to find Sasuke and Kakashi and help them along how he could. He jumped high into the air to avoid being crushed by the flailing body of a massive snake, and ran up its length rapidly. Another snake rushed at him, and another. He dodged them all with little trouble, using their convoluted lengths to stymie their attacks. The main snake with Orochimaru been stationary, and the snake Sannin scowled as Naruto skillfully dodged the crush attempts of 7 massive white snakes. Otogekyu shook at the intensity of the battle, and Naruto became more concerned about the ground stability. Is running around all you can do, Naruto-kun? Asked Orochimaru sarcastically as his 7 snakes devastated Oto completely in their attack. Naruto flashed back to an older era in his mind, hearing the same thing as he dodged a succession of dangerous Bijudama from the Kyuubi. He once again heard Madara's voice shouting at him with derision. Is running around all you can do, Hashirama? How he itched to enter his sage mode and crush Oto into oblivion along with Orochimaru. Hurry up, Sasuke, Kakashi, he thought grimly as he jumped high into the air using a snake's head as leverage. Twisting in the air, he brought down a hammer kick upon the main snake with all his considerable physical energy. The huge snake bit the dust with an explosive report. It then reared up angrily, and he felt Orochimaru's strange chakra permeate the air once more as all the 8 snakes stared at him balefully. Earth dragons will not work against this thing, thought Naruto grimly. A nimbus of bright silver chakra surrounded his form as he readied himself for a constrained battle. The moment they are finished, I will deal properly with Orochimaru. Sasuke rushed through the labyrinthine and irritating passageways of Orochimaru, paying little attention to where he was going as long as he ran towards Yudogo-sensei's tortured screams. He feared what he would find, what tortures Orochimaru had subjected her to. After Naruto had left with Jiraiya, only she and Kakashi had taken up responsibility to train him, teaching him more than just jutsu. He could not see her dead or harmed. She might be NBU, but it was she who had made him begin to question the purpose of their strife-filled lives. She was only 3 years older than him, but she was a NBU already. The Uzumaki clan was rumored to be great masters of kenjutsu, supposedly descended from the great samurai swordsman. She had taught him many things with the sword, and they had together shared life and death in many missions. His fist tightened and his Mangekyo Sharingan shone an angry red as he raced through Orochimaru's ridiculously convoluted base. As he rushed around a corner, a blurring object with small spikes came rushing at his head, and only his supremely trained Sharingan allowed him to evade the fatal blow. His mastery of Sharingan was perhaps not as absolute as his brother's. He did not think he would ever reach Itachi's simply stunning skill with his eyes, but it was high nevertheless. He kicked out with strength, but was stopped cleanly by a firm hand. He disappeared with a shunshin only to appear a few paces away from the opponent, both of them facing each other in the dimly lit passage. Sasuke's eyes widened as he recognized Hoshigaki Kisame staring at him with his customary playfulness, and had to consciously suppress his frustration. "Give way, Kisame. I have little time to fight with you," he snarled in a low voice. Kisame chuckled as he held Samahata menacingly towards him, and Sasuke beheld the absolutely enormous chakra reserves of the ninja. It far surpassed his chakra. This would be a close fight indeed. "Look what I found," said Kisame with relish. "Itachi-san's younger brother, You have the same eyes as him right down to the Mangekyo form. I always wanted to try my hand against those eyes," he said musingly. Sasuke did not hesitate. His hands blurred through several seals, and he roared, "Katon, Gakkaku no Jutsu!" A huge fireball blasted towards Kisame, who negligently batted it away with a wave of water. Sasuke disappeared with a shunshin, appearing behind Kisame and thrust his katana at his back with blinding speed. He swore softly as the impaled Kisame dissolved into a water clone, the real one laughing behind him. "Not bad, I had just enough time for the clone. You are very fast with that shunshin," he praised. Sasuke disappeared once more, using all his skill with the shunshin as he seemed to attack Kisame from all sides. Kisame frowned as he concentrated, skillfully parrying what seemed not like one sword but 10 attacking him at once. The air seemed to scream as the 2 kenjutsu masters swung their swords blurringly, Kisame's experience holding easily against Sasuke's speed. Samahata did not seem to constrain Kisame at all as he swung the huge sword around as a child might swing a reed, meeting each and every one of his swings effortlessly. He slipped under Samahata as Kisame swung, and instead of taking the opening he feinted and appeared behind the shark man. Kisame gasped as Sasuke buried his sword in Kisame's shoulder, and blood poured down the Akatsuki's back. Kisame roared with rage as Sasuke drew his sword back for a final blow. His wound was beginning to close slowly, and Sasuke evaded his angry slash with a skillful body flicker to appear behind him. Kisame turned to the Uchiha with an unholy anger on his face. "Suiton, Baku Sui Shoha!" he shouted, and waves upon waves of water seemed to surge towards Sasuke forcefully. In that confined space he had no escape, no maneuver that would help him. As he floated in the flooded corridor, his eyes widened as chakra sharks drifted towards him dangerously. There were about a dozen of them. His heart constricted as he heard a final desperate scream from the chambers ahead of him. Then her voice went still. The sharks seemed ready to tear him apart when Sasuke's Mangekyo shone red, and the Uchiha yelled, "Amaterasu!" Black fire exploded from the Uchiha in raging torrents, and Kisame shouted in alarm as his water was simply evaporated along with his sharks. The heavenly flames could not be denied, not by the pitiful jutsu humans could create. Not by the ordinary forces of nature. Sasuke screamed as his eyes hurt him, but sent walls upon walls of Amaterasu in all directions and felt the water vaporize along with that section of the base. The walls simply melted into slag where the flames hit them, and Kisame yelled in unmistakable pain as the black flames buried him. Sasuke slowly let go of his Mangekyo as he saw Kisame burning limply in his flames, glancing around at the devastated passageway. He was several levels down, so he did not think the entire structure would be stabilized. He walked up to Kisame and nudged his body with a foot. "These eyes are not something that can be defeated," he murmured, and shot forward. But he was stopped dead as he heard an enthusiastic clapping from behind him, and his eyes widened as he saw a very healthy-looking Kisame applaud him. "How the— Samahada is not just some sword, Sasuke-san," said Kisame. "I admit if it were not for Samahada I would have most likely died today. Now the real fight begins!" he shouted as he hefted his huge sword. Sasuke spat, his eyes morphing back. His anger knew no bounds as he observed the frustrating Kisame. "You are dead," he said in an emotionless voice, and the purple skeleton of Susanoo began to cover him, and the mythical warrior came into shape. His skeletal defender encased him completely, and held two swords of purple chakra as Sasuke glared at his enemy. "Susanoo?" whispered Kisame in absolute surprise. "You really are Itachi's little brother, Sasuke-san. It will be a pity to kill you, you know," he said mournfully. Before Sasuke could make a single move, he saw Kakashi and Naruto appear behind Kisame. "Let the jutsu go, Sasuke," said Kakashi briskly. "And go find her. We will take care of him from here." Sasuke immediately let it dissipate, and looked at them with surprise. Naruto looked at Kisame blankly. "How many times should I defeat you? Haven't you had enough?" he asked calmly. Kisame laughed. "You idiotic clone! I can smell your diminished chakra quite easily from here. Uzumaki Naruto, do you think you can kill me with only that much chakra?" he asked laughingly. Naruto stared back and a shroud of red chakra surrounded him. Kakashi held out his hand, and Raikiri crackled up his palm in a blinding shaft as they both faced Kisame. "I am a Jinchuriki, you stupid fish. I defeated you with a clone the last time. I can do it now as well," said Naruto's clone as they dashed forward to meet Kisame with a thunderous sound. Kisame snarled as he countered the attacks of both Naruto's clone and Kakashi at the same time. "Go!" shouted Naruto's clone, and Sasuke nodded as he shot off towards the chamber he had pinpointed. He cut down mercilessly the few shinobi who were guarding the place, and came to a set of stairs that led down to a room. In an instant, he was at the door and kicked it open. The sight that met his eyes would have driven anyone mad, but he had seen Orochimaru's bases before. The earth outside shook violently, but Sasuke paid no attention as he took in the sight of shinobi who had been used in inconceivably cruel ways. He looked away as he saw Yugo's ANBU team upon various tables with several seals inscribed upon them. Even without Sharingan he knew they were dead. A cold pit of fear formed in his chest as he looked at a table with Yugo lying in it. She seemed to breathing slowly, but a man was standing over her, scratching something on a pad. The lab was silent as Sasuke approached warily, and the man looked up. Sasuke's eyes narrowed as he recognized Kabuto, and Orochimaru's subordinate smiled welcomingly as he saw Sasuke standing opposite him. "Ah, Sasuke-kun," he said cheerfully. "Nice of you to join us. Your sensei here has made for some truly delightful experiment material," he said happily, as he pointed to a heavily breathing Yugogo. "Truly, she has pulled our efforts up by leaps and bounds. Tell her she will have my gratitude when she wakes up." "What have you done to her?" ground out Sasuke in a rage-filled voice as he stared at the prone form of his sensei. Kabuto chuckled, his glasses glinting softly as he adjusted them to stare better at Sasuke. "Ah, that is the question," said the medic gleefully. "Simply putting it, we embedded in her a shard of metal and are observing the effects. It is a fascinating process." Sasuke sighed in relief. That was something Naruto would be able to heal easily. He had literally brought his wife back from death's door, and this was child's play in comparison. Kabuto shook his head, as his laugh escalated to maniacal levels. "You are thinking about Naruto-kun, aren't you?" he asked derisively. "It won't be easy, Sasuke-kun. I pride myself on accurate work. This particular experiment cannot be undone as easily as you think." "We'll see," said Sasuke, as the purple skeleton of Susanoo came into being once more around him. Kabuto's eyes widened in alarm as the spectral warrior raised his sword high in the air. "It is time for you to die," growled Sasuke. "I am no fool," said Kabuto as he stared at the Susanoo with fascination. "I know at the moment that you are beyond me. See you later, Sasuke-kun," he said smilingly, and stabbed himself in the gut with a kunai. Sasuke watched with wide eyes as Kabuto fell forward, his face changing to one of some other nameless Odo shinobi. The air was displaced slightly as Naruto and Kakashi came in panting. Sasuke nodded at them as he let Susanoo go, and appeared in front of Yugogo's table. With a sharp movement he had gathered her, also listening to Naruto's clone as he stated. "My original is battling with that disgusting snake. I am near to dissipating, I am afraid. The battle with Kisame has taken up all my chakra," said the clone urgently. "Our mission is accomplished. We have retrieved what A and B are alive, and unfortunately that is only Yugogo Yuzuki. Original cannot unleash real strength until we are outside this base. So there is no time," said Kakashi as he stared at Sasuke, who was trying to revive Yugogo. "Sasuke, we must leave. We have the greatest healer ever born on our side. Stop worrying about her for now. Let's go." The clone dissipated into the ground, and Sasuke and Kakashi disappeared with Shunshins, dashing through the maze-like structure as fast as they could. They could hear the screech of some dying animal above them as sand fell from the ceiling of the shaking base. "Faster," murmured Kakashi as they dashed through the now collapsing base. Naruto and Orochimaru were battling far too violently for them to remain in a safe position. They had to get out fast. He had killed each snake several times, but they seemed to regenerate every time he damaged it. He had cut off their heads with Raisin Shuriken, slammed it to the earth with Udama Rasengan, and literally pounded every inch of the monster to the ground. The wrecked village of Odo stood in testament to that fact. As he stood upon a roof, he saw Orochimaru's annoying snakes hiss at him. Objectively, he could only admire the technique. He could respect Orochimaru's tenacity. It was literally like his own. In fact, in Orochimaru's body he could sense a good amount of his own life force. No doubt that added a considerable increase in the Sanin's abilities. "I must say, this man is just strange," commented the Kyuubi offhandedly. "That jutsu. I have never seen anything like it in all my years. Did you notice that this Orochimaru guy is also a sage? He is using senjutsu to keep up this technique." "I noticed it," said Naruto. He was not really tired, but the battle was really frustrating him. "Those snakes, they are really annoying me. Only if Itachi were here, that Katsuka sword would have sealed up Orochimaru with a lot less fuss." "Irritating, isn't it?" This thing seems to regenerate no matter what. You need something powerful to deal with it. Either I fire Bijudama on it, or I use mokuton, finished Naruto as he felt a familiar sensation. He closed his eyes as he felt the knowledge of his wood clone coming back to him. Kurama, they are done with the mission, he said with relief coloring his tone. Kisame has fled for some reason, and they have the Uzuki. They should be out in a few seconds. Then let us show this useless excuse of a snake what it means to face the Kyuubi, and the Yondaime Hokage at the same time, growled Kurama menacingly. Naruto grinned as he felt Kakashi, Sasuke and another chakra approach rapidly. His ability with mokuton had increased vastly after his long sabbatical from Konoha, and he felt himself inching closer to what he had been during the height of his power. He calmed himself, and held out his palm towards the 8 snakes headed at him, plundering and savaging through the remains of the city. His relief only increased as he felt his teammates' chakra out in the open, and shouted, "Mokuton, Mokuryu no Jutsu!" The village shook as the wood dragon rushed out of the ground, roaring its mighty roar as it intercepted the onrushing white snakes. It circled over the monstrous beasts fluidly, trapping them securely in its coil. Naruto grinned as he caused the wood dragon to tighten its hold even more and saw Orochimaru trying to release his technique. He dropped down to the ground and rushed through the wrecked village towards the trapped monster snakes. The snakes had stopped struggling as the wood dragon rapidly leached the chakra of its prey, falling uselessly to the ground even as Orochimaru struggled within the mouth of the controlling snake. Naruto stood before the massive spectacle, watching with a grin as Orochimaru continued his futile efforts to escape. He was quite proud of his technique as he could feel the power of the dragon. He glanced high as Orochimaru grew still, electing to examine the huge dragon that had so effectively stopped his snakes. "It's over, Orochimaru," said Naruto loudly. "You cannot release your technique when the dragon is actively draining chakra from you. You have caused enough trouble for a lifetime, and I am afraid it ends here for you." A slight stir in the air later, Sasuke and Kakashi stood at his sides, the Uchiha carrying a purple-haired woman in his arms. Ignoring Orochimaru at the alarmed look on Sasuke's face, Naruto rushed towards the prone woman. One sensing told him there was a foreign object in her body, something that did not belong there. "Lay her down," he commanded. Putting a hand on her abdomen, he sent tendrils of chakra throughout her body even as she convulsed. Finding the shard in her chest, he tried to pull it out with Iryo ninjutsu, and stopped immediately as the ANBU screamed out into the sky. Stopping immediately, he drew conclusions fast. That shard had reacted strangely. This was bad. Very bad. He looked at Sasuke urgently and spoke. "I cannot heal her here. That shard reacts to chakra, it burrows deeper inside her, it is constructed with few ninjutsu, and it requires patience and expertise to deal with. Mido, I and Tsunade should all work together to heal this woman," he said crisply. Sasuke nodded with closed eyes, opening them only as he turned towards the trapped Orochimaru. "I will kill you," he said in a quiet voice, and his eyes morphed into the Mangekyo Sharingan. Orochimaru chuckled from within his snake as the other 7 fell limply to the ground after all their chakra had been sucked out. The snake Sannin himself was staring at Naruto with a kind of absorbed fascination as, not caring as even his chakra was leached out by the wood dragon. "Kuchios no Jutsu," said Naruto loudly, and Kakashi and Sasuke stared surprised as a large frog materialized. Naruto looked at the frog, who had 2 swords crossed behind him, and spoke firmly. "Gamma Hero, this shinobi is important to me," he said, pointing at Yugogo. "Get her to Myobokuzen immediately and try to sustain her as best as you can. I will summon you immediately when I reach Konoha. Go now!" he shouted. The frog took the Anbu with his long tongue, tucking her safely within his body. Then, with a glance at the massive wood dragon and trapped Orochimaru, he disappeared with a huge puff of smoke. "Don't be so hasty with Orochimaru," said Naruto as he stopped Sasuke with a hand on his shoulder. "I have no doubt Akatsuki is watching right now, and I do not want to battle pain when your sensei awaits healing so desperately. Perhaps some other time." he said, glaring at the snake Sannin, whose face was growing pale and sickly as the last of his 8 snakes' chakra was leached out. The 8 snakes suddenly morphed back into Orochimaru, and the snake Sannin dropped to the ground with a thud. Kakashi and Sasuke watched silently as the wood dragon dissipated back into the earth, leaving Orochimaru gasping and prone upon the ground. "Is she safe?" asked Sasuke desperately, and Naruto nodded. "The toads will keep her safe. My Obokuzan is soaked in Senjutsu chakra and she will be stable there," he replied as he looked around the devastated village. The destruction of Oda was complete once more, but he had no doubt that it would once again be brought back to strength. Its position was far too strategic to leave it otherwise. Your strength is not ordinary. I knew I was right," gasped out Orochimaru as he looked at Naruto from his position on the ground. Naruto looked at him distastefully. "About what?" "I know who you are," he choked out, even his considerable life force drained out by the wood dragon. "I have suspected it from the moment I was unable to summon Hashirama with Ito Tensei. It was too convenient," he said faintly, and Naruto stared at him with foreboding. "All the evidence points to it. I cannot summon the Shodai from the dead, and here you are with power and skill uncannily like his," he gasped out as he tried vainly to stand. He did manage a slumped standing position, so severe was his loss of chakra. He stared at the 3 Konoha shinobi, his face paler and sicker than ever. "Today only confirms my theories. My body is fully made of his cells. When you used wood release, I felt a resonance I have never felt before. It is too exact, too matching to be anyone else," he concluded as he looked up with a great effort. He did not flinch, not even when Naruto's sad green eyes met his. "I never thought I would meet you this way," slurred the snake Sannin. "Never like this, Senju Hashirama. Reborn into the body of a useless Uzumaki child, the mightiest ninja ever to walk the earth after the sage himself," asked the Sannin wildly as he stared at the impassive Naruto. "I am afraid you must die, Orochimaru. I cannot keep my word to Jiraiya," said Naruto grimly. "You will die now." Violet streaks suddenly ran across Orochimaru's face, and Naruto cursed at his own inattentiveness. During his monologue, the snake Sannin had been sneakily gathering Senjutsu chakra. The Sannin was surrounded by plumes of violet chakra and his mouth opened impossibly wide, spitting out another Orochimaru who looked completely rejuvenated. "What a turn of events!" chuckled Orochimaru amidst the wrecked remains of his once teeming village. "I did not expect this of all things. The legends were not at all exaggerated, it seems. What unearthly might, what strength, Kukuku, it is a good time to be alive!" "What are you slavering about?" asked Sasuke disdainfully. Orochimaru looked at them with his inhuman eyes, and spoke in a hissing caress. "Firstly, I have no intention of telling Akatsuki about your identity." Naruto and the others wore openly shocked looks at this declaration, and it took them a few moments to gather their minds. Naruto looked at the Sannin calmly. "And why should I believe you?" "Because," said Orochimaru, "we can come to a mutually beneficial agreement. I dislike Akatsuki, I hate the elemental nations, and I loathe Konoha. They are all impediments in my goal." "To learn all the jutsu in the world?" asked Kakashi snidely. Orochimaru shook his head, still looking wonderingly at Naruto. "All the jutsu I can learn won't help me against you, will it, Senju Hashirama?" he asked in an almost delighted voice. His entire bearing seemed to speak of some great exhilaration as he set his eyes on the reborn Shodai. Naruto concluded that the Sannin was most likely insane, but nodded anyway. Who was he to dispute the truth? "Probably not," he agreed, and Orochimaru nodded. "I thought so as well. I am more useful to you alive than dead," he asserted. "I will be quite frank with you, Senju Hashirama. I will not come between you and the Akatsuki if I can help it. No one can do that and stay alive for notable amounts of time. It matters not to me whether you or Pain are the victors, what matters to me is my goal." "And what is your goal?" asked Naruto calmly. I conceived it some time ago, and it has many components to it. No matter, he continued. What is important is that I can help you by giving you information on Akatsuki. Do you agree? He asked. At this, Naruto's eyes widened considerably. Let us kill him, said Sasuke angrily. He cannot cause any problems then. Please, Sasuke-kun, said Orochimaru urbanely. If you can manage to do that, my subordinate Kabuto will see to it that your secret will reach Akatsuki immediately. If Toby hears of this. He licked around with his overlarge tongue. No telling what he might do. He will most certainly bring down terrible wars upon the shinobi world that we are not yet ready to fight. There is much more to Akatsuki than even you, Hashirama, could possibly imagine. Your strength and wisdom are legendary, and I have no doubt you will choose wisely here. Not much left to choose. This young upstart has you by the balls, snorted the Kyuubi, laughing at his own joke. Quiet, Fox. Naruto was deep in thought for a few moments. Then he laughed out loud, looking at a faintly disturbed Orochimaru with highly amused eyes. Gahahaha! I have grown pretty dull in this life, laughed Naruto. Fine. I cannot really sense any deception from you now. Even the Kyuubi cannot sense any such thing, and no evil can escape his senses. All right, Orochimaru, we do it your way. But, he whispered, his face going dark as he unleashed his chakra. Orochimaru fell down to his knees, staring at Naruto with wide eyes. Something that seemed to weigh thousands of tons pressed down upon him, cracks spidering out from Naruto's position all over the village. Sharp cracking sounds filled the village as several pieces of debris were crushed into powder that floated away in the wind. But if you betray us a second time, you will die, said Naruto in a matter-of-fact voice, letting his massive chakra dissipate suddenly. Orochimaru licked his lips yet again at feeling the chakra of Hashirama. He fixed his gaze on Naruto and spoke silkily. Very well. Let us meet upon the heaven and earth bridge after you finish healing that A and BU. Don't worry, he said to Sasuke, tossing him a piece of metal. Make an incision in her body and hold this metal over it. The shard inside her will come out and join this one, a curious thing. It is not magnetism but something else. Something fascinating. He trailed off. I'm not so sure about this, said Kakashi quietly. Naruto turned to him and said, There is no option. He knows how to negotiate. He conceded as Orochimaru grinned his less-than-human smile. Then his face grew serious. We need to get back to Konoha. And soon. Chapter 20. Naruto stared listlessly at the piece of paper that bore his wife's handwriting. He could hardly believe that Mito had simply departed without a word to him. 3 years he had wanted the nations to be strong enough to heal her. 3 years he had trained like never before, reaching intensities in effort that Jiraiya often christened as suicidal. What did she tell you, Tsunade? He asked softly, looking up at his granddaughter who was looking despondently outside the window. She told me to take care of you. That she had something to do that only she could do, replied the golden-haired Hokage in a voice that shook ever so slightly. She left Konoha just 2 days after you did. You know how hard she is to track. Uchiha are in short supply, and the other censors could not do much. She hid herself with Fuinjutsu. You know she will be out of Konoha by this time. Naruto stopped himself from crushing the paper. He knew Mito as well as he had known himself. She always was fiercely independent, ridiculously so, but far from foolish. I believe she is not after the Akatsuki at all, Tsunade, he said with a humorless chuckle. She is much like Tobirama was in that regard, shrewd and canny while attacking enemies. She would have undoubtedly sought my help if she had gone after pain. Whatever it is, she must be reasonably confident of accomplishing it, he said with a troubled look, getting up and donning his white cloak that supposedly made him look like a clone of the Yondaime. Naruto? Said Tsunade suddenly as he walked towards the door. He paused, turning to look at her inquisitively. Reconciling the images of the little girl he had bounced on his knees as Hashirama, and the full-bodied cynical woman who he saw as Naruto was at best confusing to him. But there was no help for it. Tsunade was who she was, and he would gain very little in confounding himself too much. Yes, Tsunade? You have been invited to the barbecue restaurant on Main Street by the rookies of your batch, to celebrate your return and the successful rescue of our ENBU. I would recommend that you go, she told him gently. Since your awakening, you have had very little rest. Will you dash? Perhaps it is for the best, agreed Naruto resignedly. Already the euphoria of defeating Orochimaru was fading away, being replaced by anxiety for his wife. He knew better than anyone else that Mito could take care of herself despite that freak lapse 3 years ago. He was going to respect her wishes and let her accomplish this task which obviously meant so much to her. But he was not entirely foolish. Mokuton, Mokubunshin no Jutsu, he said, weaving a hand sign. 8 wood clones were born out of him, streaking outside the Hokage's office in 8 different directions. They have a chance of finding and tracking her. I cannot sit doing nothing. I want to be ready if she needs help, admitted Naruto sadly. Tsunade nodded to him, looking like she expected nothing else. Before she opened her mouth to reply, Naruto had disappeared with a leaf shunshin. He appeared with a swirl of leaves near the barbecue restaurant Choji adored so much, feeling the ebb and swirl of a mostly content humanity around him. Citizens he did not even know bowed happily to him, glancing appreciatively at his long white cloak and the double trident symbol of the Senju clan upon its back. Nodding politely to each villager and shinobi, he made his way across the sea of citizens. As he pushed the door open, his eyes fell upon the large table that dominated almost the entire hall. Seated around it was the so-called Rookie 9 of his batch, along with a few other familiars. He smiled fully, unable to contain the sense of joy rising within him as the entire posse rose as one, cheering wildly as they caught sight of him. Shikamaru and Sasuke were applauding quietly, and Sakura's excitement was all too evident as he immersed himself in the joyful atmosphere permeating the restaurant. Yuzuki Yugago did not escape his notice as she sat demurely beside Sasuke, looking at him with a sublime gratitude. Thank you, he grinned as Rock Lee ushered him enthusiastically to a seat between Sasuke and Sakura. Perhaps for a few hours he could lay aside the cares and troubles of his 2 lives, and just be with the people he cared about. If only Mito were here. Then it would be complete, he thought with an aching heart as the clamor caused by his arrival subsided. Shunting aside his anxiety and fears with difficulty, he took in the sight his former classmates. So you have become Jounin, he said to Niji, who nodded with a faint smile. Naruto had had minimal interaction with the Hyuga previously, but he had heard the rumors. Apparently Niji was to the Hyuga what Itachi had been for the Uchiha, a genius of the highest level. Then he noticed the attire of Yugago, and the underlying tone of sadness in her emotions. She is mourning for her lost teammates, Kurama reminded him. Sorrow stabbed through him for the horrors the young woman had probably undergone, the least of which were the loss of her ANBU teammates. All eyes turned to him as he walked to the blue-haired ANBU, holding her gaze with his own. The floor beneath him buckled and cracked as he extended his hand, stalks of several beautiful flowers blooming as everyone in the restaurant watched silently. For the ones you lost, he said quietly, handing her the bouquet of varicolored flowers. She accepted his gift with a grateful incline of her head, and he saw her eyes shine with tears for the smallest instant before she gained control. A measure of solemnity stole through the group at the poignant scene, but the ever-ebullient Rock Lee jumped onto the table and yelled, pumping his fist high into the air. Youth! Naruto and the rest of Team 7 watched as Lee's unwarranted interruption sent Chuji's meal flying, sending the stout boy into a rage. This is fun, he said with anticipation as he saw their proper little meeting turn into a general brawl as Choji tried to avenge the loss of his meal. Is it always like this? Pretty much, said Sasuke with a grimace. The brawl had devolved into a fierce food fight, and cups of ramen and barbecue went flying everywhere in the restaurant. So much for a quiet meal with friends. I am never going to eat with that fatso again, he said disgustedly. The restaurant went so silent that Naruto could actually hear everyone's heartbeat. "Sasuke-kun," said Sakura with a dawning horror. Sasuke glanced from her to Choji, who was bristling with anger. "Oh crap," he muttered as the Akimichi slowly began to stalk towards him. The next moment a splatter sound was heard, and Naruto sniggered as he saw Choji's soup emptied on Sasuke's face. Said grin was wiped out as he felt Shikamaru's shadow hands empty a huge platter of rice on his head. He glanced at Sasuke, who glanced back at him. They nodded decisively to each other and turned back to the now apprehensive food fighters. "It's on," said Naruto with glinting eyes and reached for the remaining items on the table in a blur. "This really is fun. I must get together with these kids on a regular basis. They certainly know how to enjoy life," he thought happily as he and Sasuke spilled a jar of juice each on Sakura and Yugugo respectively. The whole thing devolved into general chaos and pandemonium from then on. "Would you please stop doing that?" said Tsunade as she leaned back on her chair, in response to Jiraiya ogling her impressive breasts. "It's already old, Jiraiya. I can even give you an eyeful if you want right now," she said in a tired manner as her hands reached towards her strained top. Jiraiya's lecherous behavior disappeared immediately at this alarming departure from their routine, and he caught Tsunade's hand firmly as it traveled upwards. "What is wrong?" he asked seriously. "You have never, ever voluntarily exposed yourself to me." "What happened?" he asked. He was shocked rudely for the second time as Tsunade laid her head on his chest and hugged him tightly. "Tsunade, I am freaking out here," he said weakly as he enfolded her in his embrace. Not that he did not enjoy her soft breasts pushed up against his chest in this manner, but this unnatural deviation from practiced routing was alarming him greatly. "It's bad, Jiraiya," she said softly, and he felt her tears wet his front. "It's very bad. I read Obasan's letter, the one I was supposed to read after I spoke to Ajisen. I have no idea what to do now. There is too much at stake. Jiraiya interrupted her by gently pushing her away, and picked up the letter lying open at the table. His face grew pale with shock as he scanned its contents, the elegant calligraphy of Mito-sama filling the entire page. He turned blankly to Tsunade, who was shedding silent tears. His grief was no less than what she was feeling. He turned back to the letter and read once more to make sure it was not some illusion or his mind playing tricks on him. "Jiraiya and Tsunade, I am not leaving in such a hurry for no reason. During my captivity, I was constrained by an Uzumaki blood contract seal. In my youth in Uzushiogakure it was used primarily for disabling criminals, and it was used by the aristocratic class only. I was the daughter of the Uzukage after all. I should know. I am sure you have already drawn conclusions. The only remaining Uzumaki we know of is Kushina, and her father was the head of one of our primary sealing clans. All the evidence points to her. How the impostor was able to get past the sealing guards I had improved around Konoha, his exact information on my vulnerable position, and finally the seal itself. It was created by someone trained by the Uzumaki themselves in Fuinjutsu, and she is the only one I know of who fits these criteria. Kushina is a possible unlikely traitor. If the one I consider husband comes to know of this, it might tear him apart. I know him, and I know him very well. The choice of whether or not to kill Kushina will drive him insane. The pulls of Hashirama's will to protect the village no matter the cost will work against the pull of Naruto's love for his mother. It might extinguish his will of fire, and I will die before I see that happen. Hashirama was reborn as Naruto for a reason, and I am certain that reason does not include falling into depths of despair. So it falls to us? It falls to us three to deal with Kushina quietly and efficiently, and without Naruto ever knowing of my suspicions. If he does, it might drive Konoha itself apart in terrible ways. You must lie to him. Remember that he can sense your feelings. Better yet, send him far away from Konoha and Kiri so that he cannot ever suspect what is being hidden from him. I will deal with Kushina myself, and I will not hesitate to ask for help if necessary. I know what clones will be following me soon enough. Don't worry, I can subvert them to my own use and manipulate what my husband hears from them. Consider me as a deep cover ANBU operative, on the level of Uchiha Itachi. I cannot reiterate strongly enough, my husband should never know of Kushina's betrayal until I can find out more and act. Keep yourselves and him safe. For me. Jiraiya's hands shook as he dropped the piece of paper, and sat himself down on Tsunade's chair. It was a mark of Tsunade's distress that she did not punch him to kingdom come, instead staring at him despondently. I cannot lie to him, Jiraiya. He can pick up fluctuations in my emotions like kunai from the air, she said, wiping away her tears angrily. It's impossible. Then we have to do what Mito-sama suggests, muttered Jiraiya. Then his face brightened somewhat. I know! He is Jounin, isn't he? Let us give him a genin team. They will be dying to have him as their sensei. Tsunade stared at him. Too obvious, she shook her head. He wants to be on the front lines, and this will be like taking him down a notch from it. I think I have a better solution, she said in a preoccupied tone. Jiraiya waited patiently. She often did this to him, throw out the promise of a solution and hold out on him. Tsunade suddenly met his eyes, a faint smile lighting up her features. How happy do you think Yamato will be if I assign Naruto to his ANBU team? She asked with a smug voice. Jiraiya smirked for an instant, and then resumed turning over the problem of Kushina brutally in his mind as he replied moodily. I think we will start seeing a dramatic success rate in ANBU missions. Naruto lounged about leisurely in his apartment. They had had their first drinks of rather strong sake after the food fight, and Naruto found that his capability for holding strong drink was very low, unlike his previous life. He and his former teammates had somehow blundered into his apartment and fallen asleep in haphazard positions. Sasuke and Sakura were out cold from the copious quantities of strong drink they had imbibed. It appeared he was the first one to wake. Before he made for the shower, a polite knock sounded at the door. Come in, he said warily. The door opened inwards, allowing a man in ANBU uniform to enter sheepishly. The man was wearing no mask, instead wearing a face guard and possessed strong features. Naruto smiled at the man. He could sense something all too familiar in the man's chakra. So you are the mokuton user I sensed during the Chunin exams? How did you come to possess the wood release? He asked, waving aside the formalities the man was about to begin. I am Yamato, ANBU captain, said the man, looking around the apartment with a faint distaste. Why are you here, Yamato-san? He asked carefully. Yamato grimaced as Sasuke let loose a particularly large snore, and Sakura murmured unintelligibly in her sleep. We can go outside if you want. I am not particularly fond of alcohol-ridden air either, he admitted. Yamato nodded and they disappeared with a shunshin each, appearing in the midst of Training Ground 7. He took a deep breath of the clean air, the forest air that he loved so much, and immersed himself in the sensory perceptions. Earth and water nature, naturally. Strong in both natures, he commented as Yamato appeared behind him. This is an extremely unique situation, he said with a grin, turning to face his visitor. He had thought he was the only one who had ever possessed mokuton. His bloodline was unique. I have never been attacked with mokuton before, he stated, and sensed a subtle shift in Yamato's manner. Me too, he replied stoically, but with strong amusement underlying his words. Naruto felt the presence of several other seasoned shinobi who he assumed was in Yamato's team. The effects of his hangover began to subside steadily, and the soothing calmness of his chakra washed over him like rejuvenating cold water. This opportunity was too good to pass up. Show me what you can do, Yamato, he invited. The ANBU captain tilted his head and disappeared with a burst of speed. The ground shook slightly as Naruto parried the man's kick just before it smashed into his face. Yamato's hands flickered towards his vital points in a series of potentially incapacitating jabs, and he batted them all aside gracefully. This is ANBU-style taijutsu, designed to kill and kill very fast. Strictly efficient but lethal, he thought as he flowed through the motions of his own nature fist. A bastardized version of the Juken just like mine, he thought wryly as he gracefully pushed away Yamato's knife-handed slash with an open palm. He bowed his head, feeling the air being split by Yamato's kick as it passed over him. He spun, delivering a roundhouse kick that struck the ANBU captain right on the face guard and throwing him away a few yards. Wood clone, huh? He thought appreciatively as the clone showed its true nature. He sensed water chakra being molded behind him. Suetun, Suryuden no Jutsu! Shouted Yamato, and Naruto felt the ANBU captain draw water from deep within the earth. The water dragon roared high into the air, and came down upon him like wrath itself. Shunshin no Jutsu, he said with a half-ram seal formed, disappearing as the dragon devastated the ground he stood upon. He grinned as the water dragon circled around, rushing towards him with alarming speed. He laid a hand upon the ground, finding Yamato's connection to the groundwater that lay deep within. Just as the dragon was about to fall upon him, he shattered that connection. "What the?" whispered Yamato, reeling as if struck heavily. His jutsu simply disappeared, losing coherency immediately. "What the hell was that?" he demanded angrily, and Naruto dusted his hands busily. "Suetun, Hahanryu," said Yamato again, and Naruto watched as a howling vortex of water took shape between them, rushing towards him with a sinister whistling sound. "Doton Doryu Taiga," he said coolly, watching the water vortex being absorbed by the swamp that materialized beneath it. "Now it begins," he thought with anticipation as he sensed Yamato's earth and water chakras combining in a familiar pattern. Yamato slammed his palms together to form the serpent seal, and suddenly several bars of wood rose around him in a rectangle, and combined to encase him in a large prison of wood. He was thoroughly intrigued at this new technique. Not too bad, really. He laid a hand upon the wood, feeling its structure and potency. He at best inherited a fraction of my ability with mokuton, he realized, less than satisfied with the prison encasing him. It looked impressive, certainly, and it was impressive to a layman, so to speak. He doubted if it could hold even Kisame. If there was anything he knew to the depth and core, it was wood release. "Kai," he said calmly, finding the weak points of the wood and forcing the prison apart at those specific points. The results were, to put it mildly, spectacular. The wood prison exploded outwards in a hail of wood pieces, revealing a flabbergasted Yamato. "Do not put the prison together so symmetrically. It is far too easy to break it if you can visualize the structure with that much clarity," he advised the ANBU captain. Yamato said nothing, only shooting him a stupefied glare. Naruto held up the ram's seal. "This is how you do it, Yamato-san. Mokuton, Teisho Kaimasho," he said, and large branches of wood sprouted around Yamato, blending together in fantastic shapes to finally encase the man in a dome-like structure of wood. "This is pretty unfair to him, you know? It is as futile as countering my Bijidama with Rasengan, put in the Kyubi." Naruto shook his head. He had to know how good this person was with the wood release. He could feel Yamato's chakra surging and spiking as the ANBU tried to break out of his prison. "It's not that easy," he called out as Yamato's efforts doubled. "It requires skill as well, skill you probably don't have yet. Do you give up?" Suddenly the chakra surges within the dome disappeared, and Naruto cocked his head as he felt Yamato sealing chakra in ways that was almost as familiar to him as breathing. Before he could react, his dome exploded into smithereens as hundreds of branches of wood rushed towards him, multiplying and growing by the second. Strange feelings rushed through Naruto as the deluge of trees rushed towards him. He could not help but admire the scene this technique made. "So this is how it feels to be on the other end of the deep forest emergence," he mused. He could feel Yamato straining terribly. The man was obviously at his limit with the use of this technique. As the deep forest rushed towards him, he too answered with the same technique. "Mokuton, Jukai Kuten!" Massive trees were birthed in front of him, each tree far larger than the ones Yamato had created. Naruto watched as the two onrushing forests met each other with a deafening sound, trying to force their way through each other. He growled with the effort, feeling Yamato manipulate his trees with surprising skill. But wood release was his just as surely as the Rinnegan belonged to the Six-Path Sage. he yelled out, and slammed his palms together. His forest spilled out over Yamato's and over the entire training ground, crushing the much smaller trees and tearing through the ANBU captain's technique with an explosive report. "Tsukamiru!" he said loudly, and the opposing forest was completely uprooted by his, and Yamato was finally caught firmly by the winding branches of his forest. To his surprise, he found himself breathing slightly heavier than before. A massive grin split his face as he dispelled his technique, causing a heavily gasping Yamato to drop down to the ground on one knee. He appeared before the man, and offered a hand to him. Yamato grasped it firmly and stood up with some effort. "Amazing," said Naruto, shaking his head appreciatively. "You are surprisingly skilled with wood release, Yamato-san, though you lack the force with which the first Hokage used it. But it is a dangerous tool you possess nevertheless. We need to fight more often," he said as he sent chakra into the man. Clapping sounds were heard around the clearing, and he saw a team of 3 approaching him, all masked and clad in ANBU uniform, of course. "Sasuke, Kakashi, Yugago," he greeted, grinning at the exasperation he felt from them. The 3 took off their masks at his greeting, and Yamato thanked him and withdrew his hand. "Good fight, yes?" "Yes," said Sasuke drily. "You didn't raise Konoha to the ground, that's a good thing. And do you know that we wear masks for a reason? You can't go around identifying ANBU by name." "Catch," said Yugago, and tossed him a bird mask. "Huh! I'm not ANBU, if you remember," he said, examining the seals upon the mask curiously. Yamato shook his head. "You are, from this moment onwards," he said, and Naruto looked up attentively. "Hokage-sama's orders. Our team consists of yourself, I, Kakashi, Sasuke, and Yugago. We are to take an S-rank mission of high sensitivity in Sunagakure. 2 of the 4th Kazekage's children have been abducted," said the ANBU in a hard voice. "As you have obviously guessed, it is a ploy by Akatsuki to draw out the Ichibi Jinchuriki Gaara." "And has it worked?" he asked, looking around at the pensive team. Kakashi nodded sadly. "The latest intel from Jiraiya-sama's network suggests that it has. We are to join with a 4-man cell from Kumagakure near the borders of Fire Country. Raikage is sending his own sensor type to aid in the mission. You are our strongest sensor type, and my ninja hounds are adept at tracking. Gaara was met by Akatsuki at Sunagakure's borders yesterday," continued Yugago. 2 unidentified Akatsuki captured him as he made a frantic bid to rescue his siblings. Hokage-sama would not ordinarily disturb you for this sort of mission, but there is a chance that the leader of Akatsuki might be present at the sealing of the Ichibi. Or perhaps Uchiha Itachi. Or even worse, both." "Say no more," said Naruto calmly. His blood began to race. He was itching for a chance to fight pain, and he was going to go even if there were the slightest chance of pain being present. "When do we leave?" he asked. "Immediately," replied Sasuke. Naruto smiled grimly. This way he would be protecting Mito as well. Instead of waiting for the threat to go to her, he would go to the threat and wipe it out if he could. Something is off here. Something does not feel right here. "What?" "An instinct. Can you actually handle a completely mobile pain with the vitality of the Uzumaki and bearing the eyes of Rikida? It might be close, far too close for comfort. You are not yet at the height of your old power, let alone what was added to it in this life. Defeat is a possibility for you as well if you face pain as you both are now. So? It is not arrogance to do one's duty," he returned stubbornly as he followed his now teammates as they streaked out towards the gates of the village. He knew pain was going to be ridiculously strong, perhaps as bad as Madara himself had been. It was definitely good that he was going to have such excellent companions in this mission. His team combined with the Kumo team could definitely hold off Akatsuki, leaving him free to face pain if he was present. Uchiha Itachi was contemplating what was becoming an increasingly familiar scene at the Akatsuki base. Tobi had developed an unwholesome taste of targeting the loved ones of the Jinchuriki. Bound tightly and gagged were the siblings of the Ichibi Jinchuriki, Temari and Kankuro. Capturing those children had been no chore for the Akatsuki, and Kakuzu had accomplished that task alone. Deidara and Sasori are prepared and are on standby with the captive at the other base, said Pain from behind him. As expected, the Ichibi Jinchuriki made an attempt to cross over the Kumo border to attempt a rescue and was captured by them. But an unforeseen and extremely irritating complication has arisen, stated the Akatsuki leader balefully, and Itachi saw the man's chakra surge in response to his rage. Yes, concurred Tobi as he materialized next to Itachi. Somehow Uzumaki Naruto has gotten wind of what we are up to. Our little bait at Kiri was useless, then. Itachi quietly observed the masked imposter. He and Pain had been talking about some bait they had set up at Kiri for Naruto. He knew not to ask of it though. It was bait for him as well. He knew that if Naruto suddenly knew of this so-called bait at Kiri, then Tobi would have reason to suspect him concretely. Games within games was the order of the day at Akatsuki. And what of Orochimaru? He asked coolly. Otogekyo was nothing but a front, something for Konoha to chew on as we implemented our real plans. Their chew toy is taken away now, we might have to face them head on. It might complicate matters. Orochimaru is resurrecting his little village even as we speak, but around a different base this time, responded Pain. But he is of peripheral importance now. We should decide how to deal with Uzumaki Naruto. I have received intel that he will be joining up with a Kumo team consisting of the Jouninshi, Darui, and the two remaining Cloud Jinchuriki, Karabi and Yujito. Combine them with the Konoha team consisting of your brother, Uzumaki, Hatake Kakashi, and a couple other Anbu, we can safely say Deidara and Sasori do not stand a chance. We must begin the sealing immediately. Send word to all the Akatsuki to arrive at the other base in projection form. It will be a race against time given what Konoha and Kumo are throwing at us. We might have to resort to that technique. I will not allow the Ichibi to be taken from us, not now, said Tobi decisively and spiraled out of the hall, taking the two Sand siblings with him. Shikaku was always monumentally stupid and frankly a little insane, commented Kurama as Naruto and his team streaked towards the border in a blur. Why he allowed his Jinchuriki to run wild even at the threat of capture and sealing is beyond me. You humans are far too unstable as evidenced by Shikaku's Jinchuriki in this instance, and you have the audacity to call us unstable. Yes. You have given me hundreds of examples of how Bijou are far superior to humans. And I have agreed every single time, if you remember. But what I really want to know is why they want the Bijou. I mean, it is obvious they want it for power, but all power has a purpose. So this must have a purpose as well. Who knows? Commented Kurama idly. Pain is essential to this because only he can summon the vessel powerful enough to contain all 9 of us at once. The Ghetto statue. We have been over this line of reasoning several times already, and every conclusion I draw has me worried. This is all your fault. You should never have bothered with capturing us all those years ago. Just because you can do something does not mean you should do it. Now here you are, blundering around to fix the consequences of mistakes a century past. Just be thankful I am here, replied Naruto tiredly. Kumo team waiting for us straight ahead under cover of trees. 2 strong chakras, possibly Jinchuriki. 2 other highly seasoned chakras, likely experienced Jounin. We must take care. He alerted them grimly, receiving short nods in return. A few minutes later Naruto called a halt, and they alighted from the treetops towards the ground together. The speed with which they were traveling was quite considerable, and they had reached the borders within a matter of hours. Also, they had apparently reached the Kumo team who by the looks of it had been waiting for quite some time. They actually had a fire going, and a few tents pitched around a massive banyan tree. Naruto raised a hand in response to the rap-filled greeting of the Hachibi Jinchuriki, and Yujito's dignified one. Darui seemed to prefer silence to speech. Some people took laziness to a different level. Yamato, Kakashi, and Darui were speaking with a mutual wariness and respect. A little more interesting was how the golden-haired Jounin eyed Sasuke. It was pure venom on both sides. Uchiha Sasuke. I still have to pay you back for that genjutsu you caught me in last year. Count yourself lucky that we are ordered to work together, or I would make you squeal, spat she angrily. This is obviously not new to anyone here, he thought, observing how everyone ignored the little staring match Sasuke and she had going. Sasuke looked at she as if he were something spawned on rotten meat, and turned away haughtily, provoking more insults from the Kumo Jounin. What is their problem? He asked Yugago, who was shaking her head disappointedly at Sasuke. A rivalry during a joint ANBU exercise between Kumo and Konoha last year. She got his ass handed to him by Sasuke after he insulted the prowess of the Uchiha clan. I have to go and make sure she does not get fried by Sasuke, she said exasperatedly and disappeared after the rivals. Naruto sighed. I should have known, he thought. Uchiha were very touchy about their clan and honor, like crazy samurai sometimes. B-san, Yujito-san, nice to see you both again, he greeted, turning to his fellow Jinchuriki who were observing him quietly. He liked both of them. Their emotions were simple and pure despite the discontent of their bijou. Naruto-san, said Yujito with a slight bow, ignoring B's enthusiastic yells of unintelligible rap. Raikage-sama sends his greetings and thanks. We did not want to involve you in what is clearly our affair, but facts have to be faced. None of us are equal to the one who leads Akatsuki, or the Uchiha Nuknin Itachi. We acknowledge yourself to be in your debt once more. Naruto shot a glance at Yamato and Kakashi, who were deep in discussion with their counterparts. Right now, he had no intention of burying himself in tactical plans. All he wanted was for someone to point him to Pain, whom he would proceed to destroy with pleasure. Don't be so formal, Yujito-san, he said dismissively. Gaara is a Jinchuriki just like me, and I am responsible for him being placed at Kumo. He does not deserve the torment of extraction. I would help him even if we were enemies. Naino is cool but really a fool. How can you help that poor little whelp? Queried B curiously. I think he will be dead by now, agreed Yujito as they all seated themselves on a log next to the tents. Perhaps so. But if he is dead, we will avenge him and rescue his siblings if they are alive, but I do not think he is dead yet. I have a certain feeling when it comes to the bijou, he replied quietly. I would know if Ichibi is sealed away from the world. And I admire your courage, Yujito-san, he said, looking steadily at her. You are next on Akatsuki's hit list. What was the Raikage thinking in sending you, anyway? It is a gesture of trust and gratitude, she replied softly. He trusts in your ability to keep me safe, and knows that I would be of far more help against Akatsuki than some Jounin or Black Ops. That, and I failed Gaara. He was supposed to be training under my supervision, but he gave me the slip somehow. That makes it my responsibility as well. The Raikage is a pretty good guy once you get past his wild side, said Naruto dryly. B chuckled with Yujito at that, and Naruto heard clashes of swords meeting somewhere in the distance. One sensing told him it was Sasuke fighting rather enthusiastically with she, and he looked concernedly at Yujito. Will they? Oh yes, she smiled. They will settle down soon enough. She is a level-headed fellow, but for some reason Sasuke irritates him to no end. B and I know, by the way, she said, turning seriously to him. About who you really are, I mean. Niabai and Hachibi have reached a consensus on that, by the way. It took us quite some time to accept it, but now it makes sense. This was by far the most passive reaction Naruto had seen to the uncovering of his identity. He knew it was but a matter of time before Gyuki or Matatabi reached this conclusion. He had actually quite liked the Hellcat during his time with them. Niabai used to make the most random and esoteric observations at times. He had quite liked conversations with the cat. Ah, he said, looking at B, who had moved away from them as if bored by their conversation. You seem quite calm about it. I am now, she replied with a smirk. You should have seen me 2 days ago. I was so silent that Raikage was worried about my mental health. Niabai asks if you have finished learning how to mold in chakra, she said, looking curiously at him. Tell that stupid Hellcat to mind its own business. He grumbled back, causing her to giggle. I am weak at genjutsu, true, but that is only because of how much chakra I have. Its idiotic illusions won't work on me anyway. He shot at her. She raised an eyebrow. Niabai said, without mokuton you are just an arrogant sod. She informed him. Oh really? He replied with narrowed eyes. Tell that useless tail-swishing little creep that mokuton is part of my soul, just like her chakra is part of hers. I will face you without mokuton the day you face me without chakra, cat. He playfully said, staring into Yujito's eyes. She seemed transfixed for a moment before she replied. Niabai said dash. Alright, that's enough, sighed Kakashi as he and his 3 peers appeared around them. Yamato, she and Darui stood around them in a semicircle along with Kakashi. Argue on your own time. Orientation time is over. We need to decide how to proceed. The first order of business is to follow Gaara's trail. She and Yujito have a lock on his chakra traces, correct? He asked, looking at the Niabai Jinchuriki, who shot Naruto a bemused glance and then nodded to Kakashi. He is somewhere around this vicinity currently, replied Yujito firmly. B has gone on to scout further. He might not be a sensor, but he can track just as well as anyone. Good, said Kakashi. Yamato, please send out a clone to help B-san in his scouting. He directed, and Naruto smirked as Yamato created a wood clone. There were several differences in how they both used mokuton. His version seemed purer somehow, but that stood to reason. He knew it was not Yamato's fault, but he could not help feeling disdainful of the several shinobi who had tried to steal his strength. As if they could actually do that, he thought to himself. Kakashi has trouble with Sharingan because it is not his. Similarly, Yamato's mokuton is but a very pale imitation of my true strength. Not to mention Danzo, Orochimaru, Kabuto, idiots, all of them to think they could simply gain mokuton with a few experiments, he snorted. Sasuke stopped fooling around. He commented, feeling the spikes in chakra come from that direction. He should join us soon enough with his sensei and the other one. Yamato nodded to him. Naruto-san, we were discussing another thing you must know about Akatsuki. Our team and Darui's team have faced this before, said the ANBU. Well, Darui more than us, I believe. Kumo has thwarted more than a few attempts by Akatsuki to capture the Niabai and Ichibi. Darui-san? He asked politely of the white-haired jounin. Darui looked gravely at Naruto, and began to explain. The Akatsuki have a certain kinjutsu they like to use a lot. He elaborated quietly. They possess another body and transform it into a replica of themselves that can be controlled from a safe distance. The only reason we were able to stop those things were because they could use only about a third of their powers in the possessed bodies. We have already faced Hoshigaki Kisame when he attacked B-san, and Uchiha Itachi when he tried to take both Gaara and Yujito during a training exercise. Raikage-sama himself had to intervene, and to his chagrin it was not Itachi he had seemingly killed but some Suna Chunin. Naruto remained silent, contemplating the new information. If this is true, then this is what they will possibly do to stall us, he said to the nods of his companions. I too have fought this kind of technique, though at a much higher level. Pain imbues each corpse with a path of his eyes. I have no doubt he will do it again to distract me. If Pain appears along with one or more of those Akatsuki, it will be my fight, he said firmly. Even if all the 9 appear? Asked Yujito mildly. Even so. I think I can hold off all 9 if they come at me with 30% of their powers, he said casually. I really need to speak to Pain and make a few points to him. It seems extremely likely this is how Akatsuki will oppose us. Good information, Darui-san. It saved us an ugly ambush, thank you, he said gratefully to the Kumo jounin who waved away the thanks lazily. My pleasure, he replied. Oh, and can you please heal Shi before we leave, Naruto-san? Naruto turned his head to see a bleeding Shi and Sasuke being herded along by an angry Yugogo, and felt Kurabi heading back towards their position. So much for the god of shinobi. Reduced to a simple jounin rank for all his accomplishments and towering strength. Why don't you simply bring up that humongous statue of yours and reduce Iwagakure into a pile of rubble? You certainly had no problem using it to pick me like I was a clueless puppy during that fight with Madara. Kurama shot at him. Shinsawa Senju, asked Naruto nostalgically as he moved towards she even as the others prepared to leave their rendezvous point. I already tried it when Jiraiya and I attempted to infiltrate Iiwa. And I fainted with chakra exhaustion. I think I will be able to summon it soon enough though. As you said, I am still not at the height of my old life's power. I am just waiting for after though, he said with relish as he prepared medical chakra and held it over Shi's wounds. After? Yes. As you know, this life's potential was added to my old life's. I can feel it. I will one day surpass the full power I once wielded as Hashirama. Mind-boggling, isn't it? But I can tell this power was given to me for a purpose, he said musingly as the Kumo Jounin's wounds closed and arrived. He nodded to Yujito who beckoned him to follow. Not very modest, are you? You used to blush like a little girl if someone complimented you back when you were Hashirama, the Kyuubi said wryly. Well, I am not really him anymore, Kyuubi. I am more than him. Of course. You are more irritating than he ever was. Scoff all you want, said Naruto as he finished patching Shi up and nodded slightly in response to the Jounin's thanks. They both disappeared with a blur, streaking through the forest behind their now joined teams with rapid body flickers. How I wish Mito had not left so suddenly, he thought with a slight melancholy. I would have loved to speak with her after these years. I can see what you mean by change. You certainly have gained the ability to talk yourself into a depression. Naruto scowled indignantly, but an involuntary chuckle escaped him at the Kyuubi's quip. You are right, he said as he raced past Sasuke. Mito has definitely earned the right to do this, and I know she must believe this errand of hers to be of the utmost importance, he thought. But no matter how he said it to himself, he could not help but feel he had caused Mito hurt somehow. He infused his limbs with chakra and blurred past Eri and Kakashi, traveling just behind B who was leading the team. He had a Jinchuriki to rescue. Chapter 21. I know you sent your wood clones to keep an eye on me. Do not worry, I have them with me right now. It is comforting to have your presence with me, even if it is only a clone. I know I must seem more than a little ungrateful by leaving without a single word after you revived me, after you struggled that much during the last 3 years. But you must also believe one other thing, I would never put my life above yours. Especially in this world where the only one who truly knows me is you. Your clone told me that you were intent on simply keeping track of me, of seeing that I did not come to harm. Your maturity is showing, husband. I cannot imagine the immense effort it would have taken to trust in me after the pain you endured the previous 3 years. I swear to you therefore that I will contact you immediately if I require any help, for with you there is no question of personal pride or ego. Your rebirth is not making things any easier for you, it seems. Please, I ask you to endure our separation a little longer. I will return to you as soon as I can, for I am dealing with a matter that is of great significance to us both. You have always been kind and understanding to a fault, and I have been the fortunate recipient of that love. I cannot apologize deeply enough for my seeming desertion. I beg your forgiveness. Please wait for me a little longer. Love. Your wife. I will always wait for you, he murmured quietly as they sped through the forests of the Konoha border, hot on the trail of the Ichibi Jinchuriki Gaara. He carefully folded up Mito's letter, tucking it in the pockets of his long white cloak. With Mito's assurances, he could sleep that much easier at night. His wife never ever went back on her promises. B and Kakashi had taken the lead with Shi, choosing to be the censors who tracked Gaara. Sasuke, Yamato, Darui, and Yugo were bounding ahead behind them as they brought up the core. Naruto had chosen to take the rear with Yujito, as they were sensory types almost peerless. You seem to be suddenly happier, observed Yujito from behind him. He turned to her and nodded with a smile. Yes. I received news from someone I care deeply about. It has put my mind to rest, he confessed, feeling lighter and happier than for a long time. Yujito acknowledged that seriously, and Naruto could sense her curiosity flare within her consciousness. She was a beautiful young shinobi, young but mature in an attractive way. Coming down from your high hill of morality to join the rest of your Cretan race, are you Hashirama? I know you would take the girl in an instant, but for all those principles you burden yourself with, the QB stated. Naruto coughed slightly to cover his incredulity at that particular quip. You have any idea how odd it is for you to be giving me marital advice? He asked the fox. But then again, you would know nothing of the sanctity of marriage, you depraved fox. You keep telling me how bees are superior to humans, don't you? Well, you aren't. Oh, look at you. So properly outraged by being adulterous in a marriage that does not even exist anymore, the QB mocked. As I understand it, death breaks such bonds. You have already died once, and have been born as an amalgamation of lives. Have you even given thought to other females of your species? Never. Uzumaki Mito will be my wife even if you bring forth Kami's daughter in front of me and ask me to wed her. Now be quiet, you have little clue of what goes on in my mind. You have no idea what goes on in yours in the first place, he replied waspishly. How dare that meddlesome fox suggest such blasphemy to him? He sneaked another glance at Yujito, and found himself admiring her smooth golden braid, her pale and flawless skin, her... Is there something on my face? Asked the nearby Jinchuriki curiously. Naruto hurriedly shook his head, focusing ahead only. He clenched his hands as the QB laughed in his mind. No doubt the fox thought all this was enormously amusing. Don't do that again. I am trying very hard to remain true to myself, and you are not helping. So dense at times. I knew Naruto very well, and I knew Hashirama too. But which one are you? You think you will discover that by aping your old life? What? Began Naruto, annoyed, clenching his fists even tighter as the QB's point validated itself like a splash of cold water. His face fell as he considered. Senju Hashirama and Uzumaki Mito was a couple famous not only for their towering skills as shinobi, but also for the sublime and pure love they shared for each other. 80 years ago he would never have thought of another woman except in a generic manner. Mito was all he had ever wanted. What did it say about him now that he was noticing several other women? It was a fear that had been plaguing him for 3 years now. He knew the onset of adolescence would confuse him, but this he had not been prepared for. Troublesome thoughts, he decided, and drove them away with some effort. He had to focus. Did you actually destroy half of Iwa's standing army? Yujito asked to possibly fill up the silence. Naruto shrugged. He knew he had been lucky more than anything else then. Surprise was a major factor. Mokuton they did not expect at all, and were woefully unprepared for it. I think a lot of them would have escaped if they were prepared for it, he admitted. He was not at all in control of his chakra then, simply throwing around chakra and jutsu without his trademark finesse. Now he was confident he could finish an army of that size irrespective of their preparedness. Yujito, however, coughed disbelievingly. Really? I don't think the wood release is something anyone can prepare for, she stated. Naruto shook his head in disagreement. You can prepare for and counter anything if you are careful enough, he stated with firm conviction. Then his eyes widened as did hers. He knew she sensed them too. The motion of their team abruptly ceased, and they communicated via rapid hand signaling. Within moments they were arrayed side by side as they stared at the same spot ahead of them. They seem strangely diminished. They are not fully here. Must be that technique of possession they apparently use a lot, the QB remarked dryly. I can sense 4 chakras, though they are quite diminished in power. Pain is still very strong. He must have used the path split technique, he said softly, and they all tensed imperceptibly. Itachi is here as well. Also coming are Hoshigaki Kisame, Uchiha Itachi Pain himself. And wait a second here, he said. I sense that zombie Kakuza as well. Pain must have meddled again, he concluded. Pain and his Jujutsu were becoming far too dangerous. I sense them too, said Yujito and she simultaneously, nodding to each other. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt Pain's chakra mounting from somewhere to their right, and he knew exactly what was coming. The others tensed considerably, drawing forth their respective kunai and katana in a series of steely whispers. Defend yourselves, all of you. He whispered softly to them. I can feel Deva Path's chakra building somewhere around here, and I need to get a lock on him, he said, closing his eyes and searching out the traces of Akatsuki chakra. Doton, Dorihiki! Yugugo and Kakashi said together, and they were surrounded on all sides by a thick wall of earth. Mokuton, Mokujihiki! Yamato continued, forming the serpent's seal. The wall was reinforced by thick bars of wood that sprouted around and inside it, lending it an extremely impressive structural durability. Naruto smiled slightly, even as he pinpointed the locations of every Akatsuki. They have us surrounded. It is time, he told them quietly as he unsheathed his own blade. Very good, nodded Kakashi with satisfaction. We can carry out the plan with few problems then. Everyone, all at once, he said sharply to all except B, Naruto, and Yujito. The 5 shinobi formed the tiger seal as one, waiting for Kakashi's signal. They suddenly heard Pain's deep voice speak and acted in smooth concert as they shouted out their technique. Doton Shinjuzanshu no Jutsu! Even as they disappeared into the earth, Naruto felt Pain use his gravity-reinforced earth wall was blown into smithereens, the almighty push just stopping short of striking them. Pieces of the wall were hurled far into the forested landscape, revealing 6 Akatsuki ninjas surrounding them with grim expressions. Naruto felt Yujito and B's focus sharpen considerably, feeling them whip their chakras into alert. He felt Niabai and Hachibi awaken into readiness, their humongous chakras flaring to life around their Jinchuriki. Kisame, Kakuzu, Itachi, and Pain, he said softly, sampling their diminished chakras simultaneously. This means Orochimaru and the other Akatsuki will be guarding the place of sealing. Kakashi and the others will have their hands full, he deduced with a frown. Pain's chakra seemed to be strong. Apparently he had poured more than half his chakra into this path. Itachi's chakra seemed to be down to about 1/3 of his original capacity, but the eternal Mangekyo was what made him so terribly dangerous. Itachi and Pain are my opponents, he told his fellow Jinchuriki quietly. They both nodded. They knew exactly what Itachi and Pain were capable of, had seen it with their own eyes at the raid of Kumagakure 3 years ago. Pain spoke to them, the arrogance in his voice apparent to all. Uzumaki Naruto, you will not foil our purpose, not today. Now! He barked to his subordinates. Naruto's eyes widened with recognition at how their opponents were stationed. The moment he saw the 4 Akatsuki at 4 corners around them, he knew what Pain was about. Oh no! They are using a barrier technique, probably approaching Hokage level, muttered Naruto with dismay even as he saw them hold up the ram's seal in perfect sync. Shishinjin! They roared, and the next instant a double-layered barrier technique towered high above them, while safely ensconcing the 4 Akatsuki between its 2 layers. Naruto cursed violently as he recognized the same barrier Orochimaru's lackeys had used during the Chunin exams. No wonder these Akatsuki were able to perform it. Pain and Itachi would find such techniques trivial to learn with their advanced Dijutsu, and Kisame's chakra was strong enough to simply force the technique to work. And who knew what tricks Kakuzu had picked up over the decades? You are trapped for now. You will not cause any trouble until the extraction is complete, stated Pain sternly from his corner of the towering barrier. Itachi's face betrayed nothing as usual, but Naruto felt a sliver of satisfaction as he saw Kakuzu flinch slightly as their eyes met. Next time don't leave a body to be revived, advised Kurama lazily as he assessed the barrier closely. He himself was quite capable of erecting barriers of this strength, or even more, given the presence of 4 other Hokage-level shinobi. The problem lay in the fact that he had not spared much attention to the intricacies of sealing techniques. Not like Mito, who knew how to shatter almost any imprisoning seal. The only way he knew to break barrier techniques was just that, to break them. Don't bother, he said with a sigh to B, who he sensed was in the process of transforming to the 8 tails. This barrier is a booby trap as well. Even if we destroy it with Bijudama, we will be incinerated in a resulting flash of terrible heat. We must find another way to exit this technique. I've heard of this. Anything that comes in contact with its walls will be set aflame, commented Yujito after looking carefully at the bright red double walls of chakra holding them captive. Naruto disappeared with a shunshin only to appear where Pain stood between the two walls, and stared right into his enemy's metallic purple Rinnegan. The more he stared into those legendary eyes, the more outraged he became at the current order of the world. What right did a loathsome shinobi like Pain have to wield the sage's Dijitsu? What right did he have to claim the power that had originally brought peace to this world? Mokuton, Jukai Kutin! He snapped out of sheer frustration, forming the serpent seal with a slap of his palms. Yujito screamed as a deep forest burst out of the ground with terrible force, its branches twining and twisting in wondrous ways, always seeking to destroy the barrier that held it. Within instants, the enormous space within the cuboidal barrier was filled with massive trees and flowering roots. Naruto cursed as he saw the barrier was unbroken by his technique. He flicked his hands and two enormous Rasengan manifested in his palms. It is useless. Uzumaki sealing techniques are notorious for their durability. Even you cannot escape this, said Pain with contempt as Naruto slammed both Rasengan into the flaming red barrier. The air turned white for an instant, and a fierce wind tore up the inside of the barrier. You could let me out again, Kurama commented idly. Yujito and B were firing their own techniques at the barrier, but to no avail. As the barrier flashed white with energy, Naruto sneaked a glance at Itachi, from whom he felt the slightest fluctuation in emotion. The Uchiha looked as stoic as ever, his emotions discernible only slightly even to Naruto's senses. The lowering of the prodigy's eyebrow was ever so subtle, forming a wink that Naruto was not quite certain he saw clearly. Sneaky Uchiha, weakening the barrier like that to help you out. The boy is skilled, chortled Kurama as Naruto sensed a variation in Itachi's corner of the barrier. Not bad, Itachi, thought Naruto appreciatively as he slammed a hand into the trunk of the veritable forest residing within the barrier. Mokuton Kakujai Korin! He said loudly, and the flowers bloomed all at once to release a yellow miasma of pollen everywhere within the barrier. Before the Akatsuki could even notice the discrepancy created by Itachi, the poisonous pollen forced its way out through the flawed corner and engulfed the four Akatsuki holding them captive. That should do it, Naruto said with fierce satisfaction as he saw his four opponents fall down to the ground in a heap, taking the barrier with them. A pulse of chakra sent the golden pollen drifting away from them, causing them to merge into the surrounding forest and wind. Yujito was already extending her senses to identify the direction in which Kakashi's team had escaped, and B followed her as she shot forwards unhesitatingly in that direction. That was well done. You took them out really neatly. Yujito praised him, but her emotions told Naruto she suspected what had actually happened. But it could not be helped. Naruto inwardly thanked Itachi for his help with that barrier. Why on earth couldn't Madara have been more like Itachi? That would have solved every issue they were facing right now. Thank you. I believe we are nearing the place now, he said grimly, as they covered several miles within minutes. They found themselves facing a large cave-like structure with an enormous stone blocking the entrance. As they stopped in front of the obstructing boulder, Naruto spied Kakashi and the others appearing alongside, obviously somewhat out of breath. What happened? Why isn't Gaara rescued yet? He asked with frustration. He thought they would have finished with the mission by now. He could only sense two moderately strong Akatsuki within the cave, and the humongous life force of what he thought was Gedo Mazo. The extraction process was already complete, and he felt Gaara slip away every second they wasted here. Who have you been fighting? He asked them, noticing the agitation in their chakras. More Akatsuki-possessed bodies, and shape-shifting white things that can mimic our abilities attacked us after we removed the four-season seal upon the entry stone. I had to burn them off with Amaterasu, said Sasuke, rubbing his eyes. Naruto glanced at the forest surrounding the stone, and the heavenly flames were indeed raging fiercely at several places. Kakashi too was rubbing his left eye. Obviously even the copy ninja had been forced to use his Mangekyo. Pain had gone to great lengths to interrupt them, and now they had failed in their quest. Shikaku is sealed away. I can no longer feel his chakra. The Jinchuriki is gone too. That stupid barrier delayed us, and these inept fools you call teammates don't exactly cover themselves with glory. Naruto did not respond, nor did he show the fury he was feeling within him. He was not used to failing missions as Hashirama Senju, and he would not start now. The two Akatsuki within were not moving at all, and he could sense the sheer desperation of their emotions. They were afraid of him. Good. It was time to make an example of the two villains within. Why is no one removing the rock in our way? He demanded mildly, but his furious gaze jerked the grief-struck shinobi into action. The next instant, the poor stone was hit by 3 different lightning techniques and 2 major fire techniques, blowing it inward with a humongous explosion. Not waiting for the dust to clear, Naruto strode into the cave briskly with his team flanking him on both sides. Yujuto hissed in anger, and the cave seemed to fill with the sadness, horror, and grief of the Konoha/Kumo team. Sitting casually upon the husk of Gaara was the Akatsuki member Deidara. Behind him stood the hunched form of Sasori. Why, look at this, Sasori-sama. Namikaze Naruto is here. Can you believe this fellow is the one who's been pulling the leader's pigtails? Why, my art can finish him within a blink, yeah, he said enthusiastically, eyeing Naruto with disdain. Naruto said nothing, his entire attention focused upon the dead teenager upon whom the scum was sitting. He had lost many people, especially in his previous life, and enough in this one, but something about Gaara's death was heartbreaking to him. Perhaps it was the forlorn emotions that had persisted in the Ichibi Jinchuriki since the first time Naruto sensed him, or perhaps it was the fact that he felt that Gaara was his responsibility. The extraction was probably very painful. He died in terrible agony, I fear, said Kurama in a solemn voice. Be-san, Yujuto, take him back to Sunagakure. Only a Jinchuriki can understand another Jinchuriki's sorrowful life and death, and Gaara deserves to be buried by those who trained him, he said sadly, and looked at Deidara, who seemed outraged at being ignored so completely, and held out his palm. Futon Raisin Shuriken, he said quietly. The cave was lit with bright light as wind chakra coalesced smoothly into a shuriken shape, with a sky-blue sphere of energy shining in the center. Deidara screamed with fear as Naruto hurled the jutsu right at his face, and dived out of the way with all the speed he could muster. But he was not fast enough to dodge completely, and his screams elevated to sickening levels as his left arm was severed from his body. The blazing chakra shuriken flashed through the space of the cave in a second and cut through the stone wall like a hot knife through butter. The cave shook violently as the force of its explosion outside reached them, and they had to shield their eyes momentarily from its light. Take him and go. I have a few things to do here, said Naruto grimly to Bi and Yujuto, who unhesitatingly accepted Gaara's body from him. As they left the cave without a backward glance, Naruto turned to Kakashi and Yamato, who were grimly facing off against an almost curious-looking Sasori. Please take care of these 2 fools while I take care of something quite important. Pain has to be taught a lesson right here, he said, and began walking towards the ghetto statue, which to his senses was blazing with supreme life force and the chakra of the Ichibi that was just fed into it. Thousands of poisoned kunai filled the air as he moved towards his target. Apparently Sasori was trying to intercept him. The sounds of steel striking steel split the cave as Kakashi, Yamato, Sasuke, and Yugo appeared smoothly before him, parrying away the volley of kunai expertly even as the cloud shinobi chased the fleeing Deidara out of the cave. What the hell are you doing, Naruto? Shouted Sasuke as he leapt into the air and slashed his katana to send a kunai right back at Sasori. Walls of wood sprung up to the ceiling as Naruto walked casually towards the ghetto statue, shielding him from the lethal kunai Sasori had hurled. Standing in front of the massive statue, he felt for a moment the awe at the sheer life force it exuded. Behind him, he heard the 4ANBU engage Sasori in earnest. He had no doubt they were strong enough to overwhelm one Akatsuki. Oh no. You can't possibly be thinking of doing that. Getting engaged in a tug-of-war of chakra with something like that statue is not very wise, Hashirama. Unless you want to go back to Mito in a body bag, and want me to join your old Shikaku, don't try it. No one else can do it. Thus it falls to me. And there's a good chance pain will come running if I start playing with the Gedo Mazo, said Naruto intently. Fine, do as you wish. Even your yang chakra isn't equal to the Gedo statues, at least not yet. Perhaps you can come close, but even you will die in a contest of life force. So, I've decided to help you out if you need it, said the Kyuubi self-importantly. Naruto grinned slightly at the fox's offer even as he scented his assent. He may well need the help if he was to go head-on with the strength of the Jubi's shell. No time like the present. On alert, Kyuubi, he said, and formed the ram's seal. The battle with Sasori raged fiercely behind him, and he could feel what felt vaguely like manipulation of metal behind him. The cave was falling around everywhere due to the ferocity of the battle, but he did not care. His walls of wood held the section of the Gedo statue stable, and shut him off completely from the ongoing battle. Mokuton, Mokuryu no Jutsu, he said loudly. The earth shook and rumbled as his enormous wood dragon burst forth, coiling and spiraling forwards towards the Gedo statue. You have no idea how much I truly hate that thing, grumbled Kurama as the wood dragon coiled itself around the Gedo Mazo's shoulders tightly, twining itself so that its horned snout was directly opposite the statue's still open mouth. Brace yourself, Kurama. It's going to get a little tricky now, warned Naruto as the wood dragon roared, the terrible sound threatening to causing gravel to fall from the high ceiling of the cave. And then, it clamped its jaws violently upon the open mouth of the Gedo statue. Seriously? You made that dragon kiss the statue? Sniggered Kurama. Naruto ignored the annoying fox, suppressing his own amusement at the situation even as he released his chakra. A small misstep here would guarantee his death, and the Kyuubi in the hands of his enemy. Bright white light burst through the open mouth of the dragon, and into the innards of the Gedo statue, and Naruto probed deep within the demonic statue to find Ichibi's chakra. Kurama wordlessly joined him in his quest, and he felt the enormous awareness of the bijou surge through him into the wood dragon itself. The wood dragon shone red as the Kyuubi's chakra mingled with his, and shot into the Gedo Mazo. Disengage the dragon. I have hooks into Shikaku's chakra. We have to pull him out now, shouted Kurama, and Naruto immediately slammed his palms together. The wood dragon reared back with a mighty heave, and he saw a shining brown-colored chakra connecting the mouths of both his statue and the dragon. The Ichibi's chakra was too tightly bound within the statue, and he yelled as he exerted his full might. The wood dragon writhed in response, and arched back even further to pull out more of the recently assimilated one-tailed chakra from within the statue. It flowed out like a continuous stream of sinuous brown light, pulled out like a leech from the statue's mouth. The one open eye of the statue began closing as the Ichibi almost came into the open. You actually did it, observed Kyuubi dryly as he began panting with exertion. Wrestling in a contest of chakra with the statue was no mean feat, and even he felt the exhaustion as he pulled out the last of the Ichibi's chakra into the open. The wooden walls he had erected to separate himself from the Sasori battle rattled hard, and he could faintly sense several high-level techniques being used behind it. Apparently, Sasori was giving everyone a hard time. There. It's almost out, he panted as the last threads of the chakra exited the statue's mouth. That was a lot harder than I thought. Your help made it easier, Kyuubi. Thank Shinra Tensei. He had the warning of only a fraction of an instant as Pain appeared at the right end of the chamber, and unleashed his gravity technique. The power was so vast, so overwhelming that the entire cave exploded as the world rippled outward with Pain as the epicenter. Naruto felt several shards of wood pierce his body as he was taken by the surprise attack, and flew through the air for several seconds amidst a storm of bodies, stones, and sand. He dimly saw his wood dragon literally blasted high into the sky, and glimpsed Pain redirecting the Ichibi's chakra carefully back into the maw of the Gedo statue. The chakra he had drawn out with such effort, all that was for nothing. All thought fled from his mind as he collided with the ground with terrible force, and felt his broken and bleeding body break even more. Consciousness was almost fleeing, but he somehow managed to hold on with the tolerance of a shinobi his stature possessed. He could sense the others, very much alive, but in need of medical attention. As the dust cleared, he saw them strewn at various points, with Kakashi and Yugo groggily getting up. Sasuke and Yamato were out cold, presumably taking the brunt of the blast like he had. Get up. I won't have the shinobi who conquered me groaning like a leopard just because he took a hit, ordered Kurama. You're right, said Naruto, and stood with considerable agony. A surge of concentrated medical chakra caused the wooden stakes piercing him to fall out of his body with a clatter. His body glowed green as his wounds mended themselves, his bones setting back to shape and skin knitting itself to perfection. Within seconds he was as good as new. He stared directly at the direction of the ghetto statue, and rage filled him. Futon Natsugai! He proclaimed, and a great gale of wind swept the obscuring curtain of dust away like a hand wiping away mist. Standing quite a distance away was Pain, his back to Naruto as he sealed the Ichibi chakra back into the statue. He looks to be quite the opponent. This will be as bad as fighting Madara, thanks to the way you depleted your chakra in drawing out Shikaku, said Kurama warningly. Naruto acknowledged the point, sheer rage filling him as the Akatsuki leader turned to face him. You conceal many secrets, Uzumaki Naruto. I did not expect you to be able to draw out a bijou once it is sealed within my Geto Mazo. I did not think it was truly necessary to fight you until all the other bijou were gathered, but this ability of yours makes it paramount that you are neutralized, said Pain in that grave voice of his. So this is the real you, Uzumaki Nagato, said Naruto grimly, as he walked towards the very healthy-looking Uzumaki man in front of him. Kakashi and Yugo took Sasuke and Yamato away respectively, retreating away a safe distance as they sensed this was not a fight they wanted to be a part of. Naruto felt no hesitation in fighting an Uzumaki. Those alliances were as dust anyway. And Pain deserved to die by his hand. We meet properly now, unlike when I was talking to Yahiko's corpse. Where is the third of your group Jiraiya told me about? Konan, I believe her name was, said Naruto coolly. He loathed having to use such base tactics, but he was a shinobi of Konoha before all else. It was his job to finish the enemies of the village by whatever means necessary. She means nothing to me. No one does, said Pain impassively. But Naruto had caught that telltale flicker in the Akatsuki leader's emotions, and he would play upon it. If he could break the opponent's composure even a little, the battle was in his advantage. Really? Then what would you do if I sought her out, drained her of her chakra and left her broken body lying before the gates of Iwa? He asked coldly, and now he let the rage within his heart flare. Just like you did to Uzumaki Mido, who was actually your kin. What would you do then, Pain? He demanded. The air was still as Pain met his eyes with the legendary Rinnegan, and Naruto could feel Pain's own anger like a hot miasma leaking into the air. I never knew someone as vanilla as you could actually fight dirty, commented the Kyuubi dryly. Watch out. He's going to do something drastic. The Kyuubi, it seemed, was quite right. Apparently Naruto had goaded Pain too effectively, and the Akatsuki leader slammed his right palm forcefully into the ground. Kuchios, Geto Mazo! Pain yelled out. Naruto watched with awe as the shell of 10 tails clawed its way out of the earth in a tearing of rock and ground, its monstrous body blocking out the light as it stood on 2 feet. I used to live in there, the Kyuubi observed, as Naruto smiled tightly at Pain's summons. The Akatsuki leader had totally lost reason. He must really hold this Konan precious if he responded to simple taunts like this. He was actually attacking Naruto with the container of the Ichibi. I will get Ichibi back if I have the chance, he resolved and felt the Kyuubi groan. Tug of war again? How do you intend to incapacitate Pain and the statue long enough to perform your Kiss of the Dragon again? Demanded the 9 tails angrily. Kiss of the Dragon, huh? Good name, Kurama. Well, I will do what I do best. Contain both of them with one of my most powerful bindings. It should hold Pain and the statue long enough for me to release Ichibi, said Naruto calmly as he concentrated upon nature chakra even as Pain established full control over the monstrosity he had summoned. Crimson arcs appeared upon his face, and the 2 concentric circles on the center of his brow as he entered Sage Mode. I need Sage Mode to do both the extraction and confinement, especially with all the chakra I dissipated earlier, he said by way of explanation to Kurama. It was not often he was pushed to this point, but the technique he was going to perform needed it. It was the only thing he was sure could hold down the statue and Pain for any length of time at his current level of strength. "Die, Uzumaki Naruto!" shouted Pain as the Gedo Mazo rushed towards him. The earth trembled as the behemoth brought down its enormous fist to smash Naruto to smithereens, and the air screamed in response. Naruto totally ignored the statue as he focused solely upon Pain while forming the seals. He had used this technique exactly twice, and both times were when he had been learning it. It was a pity he had to show it this soon. Just like Madara, he had a notion of using force proportionate to the situation. The gate of the great god was totally unnecessary to this situation if he had reached the same strength as his old self. He could have simply held down the statue with Jukai-Kuten. Dismissing his meanderings, he uttered his technique even as the enormous fist of the demonic statue blocked out the light in its path to smash him. "Senpu Myo Jinmen!" The Gedo statue fell crashing to the ground in a huge explosion of dust, its neck immobilized completely by an enormous red torii gate that crashed down from the heavens. Without pause, the demonic statue's arms, legs, and trunk were also captured completely by successively enormous torii gates that fell out of the sky in great number. It could not even twitch, no matter the chakra and irate Pain exerted to make it free itself. As the dust cleared, the Gedo statue appeared to be splayed out on the land full length, its limbs or body unable to move thanks to the enormous maze of torii gates piled upon it in a dizzying symmetrical formation. Naruto huffed slightly in exhaustion, and turned to Pain, who seemed to be hurling enormous gravity techniques at his Myojinmen in an effort to free the statue. "It's not that easy to beat this technique," he called out to Pain. Even as the Akatsuki leader's attention turned to him, Naruto smoothly formed the ram's seal and called down one last enormous torii gate. The earth shook as the massive red torii dropped out of the sky, and fell upon Pain with mind-numbing force. "Good. That should hold you for a while, and keep you from making any more interruptions," he told the fully immobilized red-haired Rinnegan user, who was groaning at the force of the gate's fall on him. "Nicely done," complimented the Kyuubi, making him grin. "I don't bring these techniques out too often, but when I do they usually get the job done," he said lightly to the Nine Tails as he appeared in front of the Gedo statue's mouth. "Mokuryu!" he called out once more, and the enormous wood dragon was born out of the earth and curled around the torii, immobilizing the statue's neck. Once more the wood dragon arched, and clamped its jaws violently upon the Mazo's open mouth. This time his chakra was enhanced by Sage Mode, and the power was enough for him to wrench the still distinct Ichibi chakra from the statue's mouth. A faint silver sheen erupted around him as he exerted the full force of his legendary chakra, and in response the wood dragon lashed backwards, drawing out the Ichibi's chakra steadily as before. "I will not spare you or your village for this," Pain called out emotionlessly, unable to move or make seals thanks to the crushing weight of the torii imprisoning him. "Leave the Ichibi's chakra, Uzumaki, and I will spare you retribution the likes of which you have not seen before. You have no idea what I can do if pushed," warned the Akatsuki leader as the wood dragon pulled out even more shining brown chakra from within the Gedo Mazo. Naruto didn't care for Pain's words. In fact, if it weren't so urgent to pull out the Ichibi immediately, he would have finished Pain off by now. He blithely ignored the enormous blasts issuing continuously from the imprisoned Rinnegan wielder, the gravity techniques having no effect upon his Myojinmen. But he was not certain the gates would hold forever, not at his current level of strength. But it did not matter, for the dragon responded to his chakra and with a final ear-shattering roar pulled out the Ichibi completely from the helpless Gedo Mazo. Naruto grinned tiredly as the massive chakra of the Ichibi took form once more to become the giant one-tailed raccoon, Shikaku. He felt four presences behind him, and turned to face his A and BU teammates. Kakashi was giving him a thumbs up, and Sasuke was staring hard at the captured Gedo Mazo and the awe-inspiring torii gates confining it. I think you have forgotten what the Ichibi can do, Naruto-san," pointed out Yamato diffidently, and Naruto turned with a curse to see a rage-filled Ichibi forming a Bijudama. "I'll take care of this," he reassured them, and formed the serpent's seal. Within moments the wood dragon was upon the crazed Ichibi, and had twined around it in increasingly convoluting patterns. The one-tailed beast roared as it fell to the ground at the onslaught of the wood dragon, struggling futilely even as its coils tightened. Turning its head to Naruto, it shrieked shrilly, its golden eyes filled with insanity and bloodlust. "It's you! Why the hell can't you just remain dash?" "Shut him up, or he'll blabber secrets," Kurama snapped. Before the Ichibi could rat him out, another torii fell out of the sky to crash with stunning force upon the beast's head, formed perfectly enough to shut the beast's mouth up firmly. "It is done," he said firmly, feeling more than a little satisfaction at the work done. It was well worth the stupendous amounts of chakra he had expended, he thought, as he saw Pain, the Geto Mazo, and even the Ichibi captured completely by his techniques. "If you'll wait for a few minutes, I'll gather enough." "No, you won't." They whipped around to face the new arrival. Standing in the midst of the captured Mazo, Bijou and Pain was an Akatsuki, his face obscured by an orange spiraling mask. One eye hole was cut out in it, and Naruto immediately recognized the Sharingan. "It's him! I'll tear him apart," roared the Kyuubi, and Naruto didn't even hesitate. Yet another torii fell from the sky as Naruto utilized Sage Mode again, but as it crashed onto the intruder it seemed to simply pass through him. Space-time ninjutsu. "This is obviously that imposter," snarled Naruto even as Kyuubi's roars of rage threatened to break his focus. "Neat work you have done here, Naruto. I myself couldn't have imagined Konoha hiding one as you, but here you are. You have subdued Pain, his statue summons, and a Shikaku all at once and are still standing reasonably strong. A pity you are wasted on the losing side," said the orange-masked man in a deep voice. Yamato yelled out a wood prison technique, but Naruto saw the futility, as the Akatsuki simply walked out of the wooden stricture as if didn't exist. Even Amaterasu seemed to pass through the man, and Kakashi's water dragon as well. Never had he seen such advanced space-time techniques, not even from Tobirama. "Toby, you are here at last," Pain said, a minuscule amount of relief in his voice. "Free me from this godforsaken imprisonment. I need to teach Uzumaki the real meaning of loss," he snarled, and his Rinnegan fixed upon Naruto. It heightened Naruto's wariness to know he had well and truly stoked Pain's rage today. It was obvious he would have to train harder than ever to reach his old level. The man called Toby laughed darkly and turned to Pain. "Look at you! All your arrogance means nothing. The Uzumaki has beaten you today. Did you know that the others of the Akatsuki are watching you even now? How will you save face with them, Pain? You who have never lost a fight till now, how will you explain being constrained by that technique?" asked Toby amusedly, ignoring Kakashi and the others as they took up strategic positions to attack him if needed. Naruto shook his head with frustration. It was a little hard to hit someone who could not be hit. More analysis of the masked man's ability was needed. Not for the first time he wished Tobirama were here. His brother could have provided a complete analysis in a jiffy, or perhaps even Mito could. His knowledge of Fuinjutsu was practical and broad, not deep. "Free me, Toby, or else dash." "Or else what? What can you do?" asked Toby and turned to Naruto. "Well, good job on Pain, Naruto. You really did show us what we were facing today. I never thought anyone could pull a bijou out of the mazo once it is sealed inside, but you did it." "Extraordinary," said the man, shaking his head. "But I cannot allow you to continue with this. We have risked too much to be thwarted here," he continued, and Naruto's eyes widened as the air spiraled from the man's eye. Out came a large pot he recognized very well. "Don't let him use that! Hote no jutsu!" he yelled out even as Toby broke the casket and proclaimed, "Fuin!" His teammates responded immediately even through their tiredness, and huge spheres of fire and water joined his enormous wooden fist in the attempt to stop Toby. But even as the earth shook and dust clouded, Naruto knew it was futile. He could sense the amber-sealing pot's potency reach out and steal the Ichibi right from the wood dragon's grasp. He shouted with anger as he was denied a second time, but Toby did not stop there. The Gedo Mazo disappeared completely, and the power of the relic in Tobi's grasp was evident as the statue itself was sealed into the pot. You need some time to contemplate on your startling weakness, Nagato. Let me free you as promised, said Tobi in a deceptively mild voice while completely ignoring the wooden fist that beat on him futilely, passing through him as if he didn't exist. Naruto hurled a blazing raisin shuriken at Tobi, and he barely had time to acknowledge Sasuke as the Uchiha lit the chakra shuriken with Amaterasu in an incredible display of skill and timing. The raisin shuriken, which was afire with the black flames, flew towards where Tobi calmly sealed Pain himself into the ember sealing pot. He looked calmly at Naruto as the highly destructive technique passed through his body, colliding with the ground with a jaw-shattering explosion of light and fire. The Myojinmen at the lower levels, which had already taken an enormous beating from Pain's assaults, broke at the explosion, sending the whole stack tumbling down to the ground in a dirge of terrible sound. There we go, said Tobi as if he had just finished an invigorating walk. See you later, Uzumaki Naruto. Congratulations on helping your lady wife recover from my hospitality, he added, and Naruto sent a stake of earth flying towards the masked man even as he disappeared with a spiral of air. Don't go flaring your chakra uselessly now. You have precious little as it is, said Kurama wisely as he began to do exactly that. Kakashi and the others took one look at his face and did not attempt to utter lame consolations. Never had he failed this utterly at a task. Gaara was dead, he had been denied twice in acquiring the Ichibi, and above all Pain was not dead. That angered him more than anything. The Akatsuki got away, though we managed to wound him badly. What happened here? It looks as if Deidarabachi used this place for a dancing ground, said a voice from behind him. Naruto ignored Darui completely as he tried to master his own frustration. He saw Kakashi discreetly make frantic signals to the Cloud Shinobi, presumably asking them not to antagonize. I can deal with my own incompetence later, he thought harshly to himself as he gained a measure of control and turned to his waiting teammates. Let us head back to our villages and brief our separate Kages. We have failed at this mission. Chapter 22. The burial of Gaara was an occasion as solemn as any Naruto had attended. No expression, not even a sliver of sadness, crossed his face as he watched the Jinchuriki lowered carefully into his grave, accompanied by the tears of only his siblings and Yujito. No one else from Suna had bothered to turn up for their former Ichibi Jinchuriki's funeral save for the other Jinchuriki and the Sand siblings. As the headstone was erected with Gaara's name upon it, Naruto reflected quietly to the Kyuubi. Why did Rikudo even bother with separating the 10 tails chakra, Kurama? He should have known that the greed of men would turn his gift into a curse soon enough. Sometimes I feel despair for these foolish shinobi, we wretches who cannot learn from generations of death and misery. Cynical of you, but very true, Hashirama. I must admit that the sage made a mistake with his divide and conquer policy. But then again, if he had kept us as one, no one could have possibly defeated the Jubi. Well, perhaps Indra and Ashura could have done it if they fought together, but that was never going to happen. Those two brats were as bad as Madara and you, replied the Kyuubi sagely as Gaara was covered by earth completely. Temari's lost wails tugged on Naruto's heartstrings, and Kankuro's still shocked look was painful to see. The pain of losing your beloved sibling was harder to accept than anything else, and never did heal. Itama and Kawarama's premature deaths still weighed on his psyche, no matter the years that had passed. That was gracious of the Raikage, allowing Gaara to be buried here, he said softly to Yujito. Our last rest should be where our heart was, she replied quietly, and walked away with B. Naruto watched as the two Jinchuriki departed with body flickers, leaving him with Gaara's grave and the Sand siblings. A small wind blew in the desert, causing his shoulder-length hair to whip around chaotically. He could feel Temari stare at him, and he looked at her with compassion. What will you do now, Temari-san? He asked gently. Kankuro was paying no attention to their conversation as he stared at Gaara's headstone only. Temari wiped her eyes in reply, and sniffed. What will I do? I will fight on for my village, Naruto-san. Can I ask something of you? Please do, invited Naruto. Temari sighed as she started tugging on Kankuro's hand as if prompting him to attention. I knew exactly what my brother underwent as a Jinchuriki. All I ask is this: in my brother's memory, please don't let the Akatsuki gain any more Bija. I want no one to undergo our loss, with no one to mourn them but one or two friends. Can you do that? She asked intently. Naruto nodded respectfully, the idea he had conceived on the return journey to Suna taking stronger shape in his mind. There was no way to fight the Akatsuki with divisive tactics. There was no way the alliance of Kumo and Konoha could fight them all separately. Even if Kiri weaseled out for neutrality's sake, he had to get Kumo on Konoha's side. The Akatsuki bloc was already too strong with Ame, Iwa, and many other minor villages already forming an alliance. I can leave the alliance of nations to Danzo. He will carry it out with more ruthlessness than Tsunade ever will, thought Naruto. But his train of thought was interrupted by a certain highly annoying fox. Exactly what gives you the authority to make decisions for your village? You are either the Hokage, nor on the council. You are merely a famous jounin now, the fox said slyly. Famous being the keyword. They will listen to me when I put forth my proposal, Kyubi. Well, you really have changed. Who would have thought Hashirama Senju would actually desire war as a means to peace? Your plan to assault Iwa with a high-damage battalion is a good one, but what will you do if the Akatsuki comes out in full force? You simply got pained by surprise back there. He will not be caught by that technique a second time, pointed out the fox. Naruto sighed. In his mind, he had already drawn up the battle plans and the members. It was convincing the Kage that would be the problem. Adjusting his white trench coat painted with the Senju double trident on the back, he looked out at the vast expanse of the desert. It was perfect for open battle, and perfect for the techniques he liked to use. But all that could wait. This mission had drained much from him, and he sought the company of his wife. Mito had gone off God knows where, and after 3 years Naruto couldn't wait to join her in her endeavor. It was why he had sent the rest of the ANBU their way, asking them to report to Konoha on his behalf and tell the Hokage that he was joining Mito at Kiri. You're right. It's totally not because you're afraid of failure reporting, said the Kyubi sarcastically, which he duly ignored. Perhaps he was not keen on reporting his first failure in a long time to his granddaughter, but the truth was he needed Mito. And seeing his mother again wouldn't be bad either. The sand around him stirred as he disappeared with a shunshin. Oh, you blind bat of a former Hokage, sighed Kyubi as he raced through the desert towards the direction of Kirigakure. I keep telling you your mother's not right in her heart, and yet you repose your ridiculously naive faith in her. It will come and bite you in your ass, mark my words. In fact, I bet that is why Mito even bothered to go there in such haste, some stupid notion of protecting you, I think. But why she let your clones know where she was is something I cannot fathom the reason for. Well, I don't care, announced Naruto as he cut through the desert air with unrelenting body flickers. Mito is there and our reunion is long pending. Who knows, perhaps you'll even get some. I bet half the reason you were so happy and goofy as a Hokage was because of Mito's Uzumaki vitality, wasn't it? I mean, you are Senju Hashirama with stamina off the charts. Makes sense that only an Uzumaki like Mito could satisfy you. I'm actually surprised Mito didn't have an army of. Kyubi, enough with your bawdy conjectures, yelled Naruto angrily as he approached the Konoha border which he intended to skirt in order to reach Kiri. The laughter of the fox followed him as he picked up even more speed, leaving him blushing and turning over old memories. What the fox had said was partially true, but the circumstances of his and Mito's meeting was far more involute than anyone could have believed. Even though he had eventually come to love Mito as much as her, the Uzumaki princess was not his first love. A face flashed through his mind's eye, and his heart lurched as he beheld the delicate, feminine and sharp features of his closest confidant and most trusted associate after his brother Tobirama. Specters of the past. Your illusions haunt me even beyond death, Toka, he thought sadly. Dismissing Senju Toka's crystal-clear image from his mind, he formed the ram's seal to exert ever-increasing amounts of chakra. It would do no good to dig up memories of the ancient past. Mito was his beloved, and he would return to her and cherish what he had. It had been ridiculously easy for Uzumaki Mito to slip past the Kiri border guards, despite the state of high alert they were in. Tensions between villages were very high at this point, with pressure mounting for the neutral parties to choose either Akatsuki or Konoha. Mito slightly adjusted her kimono, its rich seams and crispness causing several shinobi to bow to her, as they mistook her for some lady of Kirigakure. She still remembered Kiri's culture, having spent considerable amounts of time here during the second Hokage Y summit. It had happened just after she had married Hashirama. It was just like her husband to snowball village business and honeymoon into the same thing. She stopped in front of the doors to the Mizuki's castle, and waited for the guard to approach. "Greetings," she said, and bowed that fluid bow she recalled from her younger days, an intricacy of the Hozuki clan. "I am here to meet with the Konoha ambassador Kushina Uzumaki regarding exchange of shuriken jutsu between our villages." "Is she available?" asked Mito in a clear voice. Before the guard could refuse her, she channeled chakra into the Fuinjutsu tag she wore as an ear ornament. The compulsion seals written there glowed slightly, and the guard shook his head as if dazed. "Of course. She resides in the first room in the third corridor from here," he directed with a glazed look. Mito smiled slightly, and proceeded onward with a dignity that befitted one of her royal lineage. Shinobi automatically gave way to her, and she kept her senses alert for the Mizukage. Mei Terumi, she had heard, was no pushover. She had no intention of fighting anyone here, except some people perhaps. Swiftly reaching the room the guard had mentioned, she extended the senses she had inherited from her time as a Jinchuriki to feel Kushina's chakra. The evenness of the emotions she was feeling led her to believe Kushina was in a relaxed state, possibly asleep. Raising her hand, she softly knocked twice. No reason to be impolite, that would come later. The door opened slowly to reveal a haggard-looking Kushina Uzumaki in standard A&BU attire. Mito's eyes flickered over to the katana belted to her side, and stained with red still near the edges. "Kushina," she greeted quietly, watching sadly as her kinswoman paled somewhat at seeing her. Mito's eyes narrowed as Kushina's hand inched towards her sword. "You don't want to do that. You might be strong, but I am far older and more experienced than you. I am not here to fight you." "Then why are you here, Mito-sama?" asked Kushina, sighing and stepping aside to allow Mito into her quarters. Mito watched interestedly as Kushina activated several seals placed around the doorway and windows, immediately deciphering their use as privacy seals. She traced a finger upon one seal, noting its calligraphy and structure with mounting sadness. "You know why. I am convinced now that you were the one that drew the seals that were used to constrain me. If it was up to me, I would execute you here and now," she said, forcing steel into her voice. "But that is not going to happen. My husband has this unhealthy propensity of giving second chances to the ones he holds dear. He did not kill Uchiha Madara until the latter grew truly dangerous to the village, and kept on giving the man second chances. It was only at my urging that the battle at the Valley of End happened, and it was by my encouragement that he found the will to finish off Madara. But with you, even my advice to Hashirama will find no purchase. I did not know that would be the purpose of the seals pain made me create. I do not question his orders," Kushina stated in a pained voice. Mito's heart fell her husband would be devastated at this turn of events. It appeared Kushina was indeed working for the enemy, the same enemy who had torn the village apart 16 years ago. She folded her hands carefully as she stared at Kushina, as hurt at an Uzumaki betraying her made itself known to her. "I would have died, but for him," she said harshly, anger foremost in her mind. Only experience and wisdom she had accumulated over the years helped her keep her mind in check, and even that was hard thanks to her youthful body's effect on her mind. "You have no idea how close you are to death at the moment, Kushina. Please tell me what prompted you to this traitorousness, before I decide to end this right now," prompted Mito quietly, her right hand discreetly forming the ram's seal. Kushina wiped away the tears that fell at Mito's speech. "It was for Minato. I love Minato more than you can possibly imagine, Mito-sama. At the time, I was not certain Naruto would have anything to do with me. I saw that man resurrect an army of 200 shinobi from death, after he resurrected me. So when he told me he could resurrect Minato for my cooperation, I believed him, she finished softly. Mito could not accept that excuse. She would not. Don't you dare use that reason with me, she said in a cold voice. I lived for more than half a century without my husband, and died without him to hold my hand. If you say such drivel again, I will not hesitate to finish you here and now. But it is true, whispered Kushina helplessly. At the time I thought it was a deal I could manage. All I had to do was give him information, an S-class secret to begin with, and later everything up to A-class secret was game. And I had to draw seals for him, seals no one else could craft. I need not fight for him, nor do I owe allegiance to him. I can even end our arrangement when I choose, she said, her voice growing stronger as she spoke. How is what I do different from what Itachi does? Itachi has told Akatsuki every A-class secret he knows. He killed Konoha ninja during his cover. He slaughtered his entire clan, his own family. I have done nothing. We knew what Itachi was doing, said Mito scathingly, cutting into her monologue. His existence was an S-class secret, and it became known to the enemy by your foolishness. Your actions put our entire nation into jeopardy, and you have the gall to disguise treason as intelligence gathering? It is pure selfishness. You deserve to die for it. Kushina was silent, her tears finally ceasing at Mito's tirade. Mito herself seethed with rage, unable to digest this most cruel treason by a kinswoman. The only reason she did not execute Kushina was due to sentiment that became feebler by the second. She had once seen this woman as a vulnerable child, and had transferred the Kyuubi to her, for she was of the same clan. Killing her here would be vengeance, but it would likely not be on the right person. Kushina was guilty perhaps of selfishness, but not malice towards Konoha. Perhaps this travesty of a situation could be put right, even used towards their advancement. I never felt loyalty to Konoha, began Kushina hesitantly, refusing to meet Mito's eyes. Never. My loyalty was for family, and family was Uzumaki to begin with. Minato was my husband, and I was loyal to him because I loved him more than life itself. He was Konoha's Hokage, so I saw his duties as extended to mine. Make no mistake, Mito-sama, I am regretful for how I betrayed the trust of Konoha. But I feel nothing strong for it, not the loyalty I feel for my family and clan, she said, now with conviction enough to look deep into Mito's eyes. They were silent for several more minutes, the moderate room only admitting sounds of chirping birds and conversing shinobi, but the seals upon it letting no sound escape outside. That is better, Mito said finally, in a calmer tone. I sense no deception in your chakra. Yes, I can see how you came to this foolhardy decision now, but I cannot forgive you for putting my husband, your son, in mortal danger. You must pay the price. The chakra in the room grew slightly denser as Kushina grasped the hilt of her katana, and said in a haunted voice, I am ready to pay. But not with my life. If you try to kill me, I will stop you. You are who you are, but I am strong enough to fight you. I can also not stop adhering to the deal. If there's the slightest chance of Minato coming back, I will take it, even over the village if necessary. You are selfish, murmured Mito. If your nonsensical actions had not harmed Konoha, we would have no problems. But your betrayal has made things complicated. I cannot kill you, and not only because your son would be heartbroken. Your absence would be noted by the person you are dealing with, and we cannot let him know we are onto his trail. No, you betrayed Konoha to him. It is only fitting you betray him to Konoha now. The faint feeling of chakra vanished, and Kushina jammed her half-drawn sword back into its sheath, her mouth falling open in surprise. I cannot let you kill him, if he can bring Minato back, she said after a moment, her voice steely. Mito sighed. Then I must tell Naruto of your activities. You can be certain the outcome will not be very pleasant. If he still retains the characteristics of Hashirama concerning the village, then you can be fully sure that he will not forgive you. He would not even forgive me if my actions harmed Konoha," she said. Kushina's face twisted in indecision, and Mito felt no pleasure in seeing the woman's turmoil in this manner. But she had brought it upon herself. It was now time for the consequences, and Kushina had to bear the weight of her foolish deal's fruits. She understood the longing for a lost love, longing for a husband. She had lived that very loss for many years, living alone when Hashirama had moved on to the afterlife. That had been unbearable, but she had learned to live with it. But Kushina's actions made sense if she felt so frail a loyalty to Konoha in the first place. It was understandable, but sadly it was not sanctionable. "You would make me choose between my husband and son?" asked Kushina finally, in an agonized voice of indecision. Now Mito was infuriated. Kushina's face fell to the side, and her hair obscured her face like a curtain from the side as Mito slapped her hard. "Stop speaking like a deluded child. Your husband is nothing but a weak promise by your enemy, while your son is alive. He is breathing, his blood flows, and he is alive," said Mito angrily, her chest heaving as she paced around the rather well-appointed room. Kushina seemed shocked into silence at being physically struck by Mito, and merely followed her with her gaze. After a moment of inspecting the seals on the walls of the room just to calm her recalcitrant rage, Mito turned back to Kushina. "You will be interrogated thoroughly before we proceed with any course of action. I must be convinced you do not intend harm to Konoha, even if you're somewhat apathetic to it. Will you submit peacefully?" "Yes," replied Kushina after a moment. "I submit peacefully as long as I am left alive and with reason after it." Mito nodded, satisfied for the moment. She pointed to a chair, and Kushina sat down upon it wordlessly. "I am not so crass and inelegant as resorting to torture, Kushina. I am a seal mistress, not a clueless chunin," she said, while reaching for the calligraphic supplies Kushina herself had stored. "You have done well with these privacy seals, and your supplies are good. Now brace yourself, we must be done before Naruto arrives. He will not be amused with me when he does, and I must be convinced of being able to work with you before then." "Anything if you will keep this from my son," said Kushina quietly, not flinching at some of the more unpleasant seals Mito was drawing deftly. "Anything at all." Deep under the stony terrain of Iwagakure, quite far from any habited region, lay a labyrinthine structure carved with almost scientific precision. It was void of people for the most part, but for the singular pair of footsteps echoing off the cold walls. Yakushi Kabuto adjusted his glasses as they glinted in the torchlight, and went over the readings he had taken some time ago during the destruction of Otogakure. Every time, analysis reveals far more than mere instinct and fumbling through the dark. "Fie on those fools who still think of chakra as just a weapon," he thought contemptuously. "Orochimaru-sama," he announced, pushing his way past the partly closed door into the Snake Sanin's private laboratory. "Your hypothesis has been verified to be correct. The metal provided us by pain responded to the chakra of Uzumaki Naruto," he said, handing over the pad full of his observations to his master. Orochimaru smirked, receiving the data with a satisfaction that was almost alien in its intensity. "Kukuku, though this is no longer necessary, Kabuto, you have done well." The Sannin smiled. "That which is created by the sage's Dijitsu will respond only to his chakra, be it yin or yang. Yin gives form, while yang breathes life, and the metal expanded merely by being in the vicinity of Uzumaki Naruto. There is no doubt anymore, I believe," he said, handing the pad back to Kabuto, who sported a smug smile as well. He was justified in his smugness, he believed, for it was he who even brought up the notion of Hashirama's reincarnation. Orochimaru-sama had been quite skeptical of his theories despite the failed summoning during the Chunin exams, but he had steadily worked to gather proof to support his seemingly wild conjecture. It had taken much of his negotiation skills to convince Orochimaru-sama to lure the Uzumaki to Otogakure, but it had been done. The loss of Otogakure was nothing in the face of the precious information they now possessed. By just whispering this to the right people, we can spark a fourth shinobi war, he thought, savoring the thought of holding power over the fate of nations. I have further news, Orochimaru-sama, he continued, this time letting his mouth curve in a full smile. I received word from the Konoha base that Akatsuki met Uzumaki Naruto for yet another confrontation. The spy was unspecific in his communication, but he is quite certain that Sasori-sama has been killed. Deidara has been injured, but we do not know to what extent. Delicious, said Orochimaru, cruel delight dancing in his inhuman eyes as he seated himself. I have wanted to finish Sasori for long, but it appears our ambush is quite unnecessary. Let Akatsuki dash itself to pieces against the might of Senju Hashirama if it wants, we will not stand in either of their ways. What can those poor fools do where Uchiha Madara himself failed? He laughed softly, and this time Kabuto joined in. Senju Hashirama. The very name sent shivers up Kabuto's spine. To seekers of truth such as Orochimaru-sama and he, the Yondaime Hokage was a shrine of information. With Hashirama's cells, Orochimaru-sama had accomplished things that were normally thought impossible. It was only due to those cells' potency that the snake Sanin's durability and vitality were so high, and even that much was but a thimble from what was a veritable lake. But even Orochimaru-sama's physical energy seemed pale and stolen to what I felt at Oto. The fairy tales are true, it seems, he thought, his hands shaking slightly as he recalled the feel of that unearthly chakra. His attention returned to the room as Orochimaru-sama resumed speaking. All that remains is gaining our insurance from Akatsuki, Kabuto, hissed Orochimaru, the light of the single candle flame flickering in his snake eyes. I hope you have deduced that the one masquerading as Madara is not really who he says he is? He queried, tilting his head to look at Kabuto. Yes, Orochimaru-sama, agreed Kabuto immediately. The orange-masked man who pulled the strings of Akatsuki from within the shadows could not be the real Madara. This much was certain to Kabuto in the light of the new information they uncovered. Hashirama's and Madara's chakras are like beacons to one another. We would likely have had another Valley of the End by now if Madara really were alive and well as the impostor claims. But the impostor knows too much about Madara. Kabuto mused, recalling their conversations with the man. Far too much. Personal details no one but the real Madara would know. It makes me wonder how he has come to such information. A good question. This impostor is pulling Akatsuki's strings through shadows and lies, gathering and keeping S-class nukenin in a single place in a unified purpose. He's probably controlling pain with some brainwashing and ideology. No one can cast a genjutsu directly on the Rinnegan. This, Kabuto, said Orochimaru, his long snake tongue flickering out to lick his own mouth, is as intriguing as our recent shocking intel. What is the motivation behind this impostor's actions? He even convinced me to rejoin Akatsuki, and I do not like acting without all the facts. Are we to investigate Akatsuki too, then, Orochimaru-sama? Asked Kabuto quietly. Making observations from a distance was one thing, but spying directly on Akatsuki itself was quite another. If Pain discovers our subterfuge, he will not spare us, he said, grinning slightly at his own understatement. Pain would not just not spare them, he would erase every particle of evidence that they ever existed upon this world. The leader of Akatsuki's retribution was absolute. Kabuto, said Orochimaru, shaking his head and smiling in a way that made even Kabuto's hackles rise slightly. When are you going to learn the importance of leverage? It is leverage alone that shields us from the wrath of Hashirama, and it will be leverage alone that will allow us to control the situation with Akatsuki. The impostor likely shields his identity with great fervor. All his action in the shadows point to this. All we need to do is uncover his true identity, and hold it over him. Kabuto leaned towards Orochimaru, intrigued by his master's craftiness. How would we do this, Orochimaru-sama? He asked, ways already forming in his sharp mind. The past, Kabuto. We gather facts of the past, and we piece together a coherent picture. Fortunately, we have an excellent place to start, said the snake Sanin thoughtfully. Tobi has at least one Mangekyo Sharingan, and that places him definitively as an Uchiha. With this fact, we must start compiling a full picture of Konoha's recent history. See to it, Kabuto. The past 30 years' data should do, ordered Orochimaru. As you wish, Orochimaru-sama. I will contact Danzo-sen for it, immediately. There is absolutely no need to glare at me so, Nagato. After all, it was I who had to deal with the consequences of your arrogance, said Toby, his mellifluous voice echoing in the cavernous meeting room of the Akatsuki. Patting the amber sealing pot sitting innocently by his side, the orange-masked Uchiha continued speaking to the infuriated leader of the Akatsuki. Whatever possessed you to go after Uzumaki Naruto as you did? I thought we agreed to deal with him last, to work around him to capture the other bijou, he queried, his tone making his displeasure very well known to the only two other occupants of the room. I will do as I wish, Toby. Decisive action needed to be taken to prevent him from reclaiming the Ichibi, and none else but I could do it. I did not foresee the boy's use of that confinement jutsu, however. It drained my chakra every time I gathered it, causing my own techniques to wither. A cunning prison, Pain replied with a curl of his upper lip. Toby sighed with no little exasperation, and turned to the other Uchiha in the room. Itachi met Toby's single visible eye with his own, his stoic countenance giving away not a whit of his true emotions. Pain has never lost a fight until now. His credibility suffers presently due to his tendency to underestimate his foes. Thus, Itachi, the responsibility of the next mission falls on your shoulders. Perhaps you will succeed where others have failed, said Toby, shooting a snide glance at an impassive Pain. Itachi was uncertain of who would overpower the other if Pain were to go against Toby. He was certain the two were allied by a strongly shared ideology. If only he could deduce what it was, he could begin subtly driving a wedge between them. I am ready, he however replied calmly to Toby. He is not pleased, thought Itachi grimly as he glanced at Pain. The Rinnegan was the paramount Dijutsu, the crowning jewel, the source of all ninjutsu and bloodlines. Even with what Itachi knew to be a basic knowledge of those legendary eyes, Pain far outstripped every Akatsuki member save for him and Toby. Without the eternal Mangekyo, Itachi was quite certain he too would fall in a contest against the leader. Excellent, said Toby, in that faux cheerful tone he sometimes reverted to. It grated on Itachi's ears unpleasantly. To him it bespoke of how unhinged the man could possibly be. Now, it was certainly not fun extracting the Ichibi. We very nearly lost him but for my intervention, which cannot happen anymore. Every turn the Akatsuki takes, we meet an obstacle called Uzumaki Naruto. I have no doubt that the Niobai's capture will be even more frustrating, possibly with a bitter end if we allow this to continue. We must keep him occupied, said the unknown Uchiha, his Sharingan gleaming beneath its eye-hole. As always, you restate the obvious, Toby, Pain interjected, seemingly unimpressed by the conclusion drawn. I suppose I do, replied Toby dryly. But this mission is for Itachi, who is somewhat more well-versed at subtle dealings than you are, Nagato. Unlike you, he understands that to overcome a stubborn problem by crushing it into powder is not quite the only way, he added sardonically. The air seemed to vibrate with menace as Pain flared his chakra for just an instant, and Itachi knew the leader had taken deep offense at Toby's adolescent insinuations. The fracture in Akatsuki was openly visible for the very first time in his long years undercover in the organization. Do not insult me again, Pain said quietly. You will not live further if you do, Toby. If you say so, returned Toby doubtfully, chuckling as Pain disappeared with a shunshin. I did not quite anticipate this facet of Nagato's personality, to tell you the truth. He automatically assumes his eyes sets him far above humanity, very much like the arrogant Uchiha clan you slaughtered. Alas, if it were my choice alone, I would have you lead the Akatsuki, said Toby whimsically to Itachi, who just blinked at the unexpected statement. I am honored you think so, he replied, ascribing to rote courtesy. What mission do you have for me, then? Straight to business, then, said Toby approvingly. Very well. Kakuzu brought me news from his old village. Apparently, The Jinchuriki of the Nanabai cannot be tracked anymore. She has hidden herself quite well, I suppose, for even Zetsu to be unable to find her. She could be anywhere in the nations. I need you to capture her, Itachi, while Uzumaki Naruto's attention has not fallen yet in that direction. We might as well capture those we can and hold them, even if their order is not quite right, don't you think? Yes, replied Itachi shortly. It did make sense, but something about the mission did not quite sit well with his instincts. The disquiet amplified the moment Toby began openly humiliating Pain in front of him just moments ago, and had begun with Pain's completely unnecessary assault on the Konoha shinobi who had come to rescue Gaara Sabaku. Try as he might, he could not get a read on Toby even with his eternal eyes, nor could he do so with Pain. It was as if their emotions were walled off even to his discerning gaze. Good. Find the Jinchuriki and subdue her. It should be no issue for one with the ultimate Uchiha Dijutsu. Do it as soon as possible, Itachi, preferably within the month. Haiden will handle Han, and Deidara will be sent after Rashi. In one fell swoop we will capture 3 Bijou, the masked man said. I will do my part, Itachi said quietly. I will. My life does not look to be as bleak as I had envisioned it to be just after the slaughter, he thought with a sigh as he lifted his hand to perform the ram seal. Fate had interfered again, bringing from the mists of legend the Shodai Hokage and his wife to aid Konoha. There remained no purpose in his original plan of meeting justice at the hands of his innocent little brother. That desperate plan sickened him when he now thought of it. He greatly longed to meet Sasuke now that the last fetters of his self-imposed penance were burned away. Perhaps this is the opportunity one have dreamed of for so long, thought Itachi, soundlessly disappearing from the Akatsuki base. It is time to chase the Nanabai Jinchuriki to Konoha, it seems, he said to himself, a faint smile on his face as he left Iwagakure behind with his efficient Shunshin. Does he have absolutely no regard for matters of Konoha? He's romping around like he owns the entirety of the elemental nations. It's as if I'm Hokage in nothing but name, with him making all the decisions for me. I have my self-respect, Jiraiya, and I won't tolerate insubordination any longer, not even from him. Tsunade yelled, her fist breaking her desk into pieces once the background, Shizen sighed. Tsunade seemed to be taking a leaf out of the Raikage's book and expressing temper. Is this because he ditched the team to go off on his own? I've done that loads of times. I think he deserves at least the courtesy you extend me, Jiraiya said absently, lost in thought as he folded the missive from Naruto. Some people knew better than others what needed to be done, and he believed that they should be given free rein to do it. Of course, he placed himself in this category quite comfortably. But Naruto too was certainly there. He was more concerned about what Mito-sama had discovered that had prompted her to go back on her original plans. But Tsunade, it appeared, was in quite another mood. Jiraiya, it would appear as if I don't control him. If I can't control what my shinobi do, no one is going to take me seriously, she told him heatedly. Jiraiya had a feeling she was taking out her frustrations of losing a Jinchuriki to the Akatsuki on everyone else. But even he had limits on what he was going to tell Tsunade to her face. Casting off thoughts of concentrating his spy network's attention on Kirigakure, he looked down at Tsunade. Tsunade, you know him. No one expects you to actually control a shinobi of his stature despite them not even knowing who he really is. He changed the politics of Konoha completely when he destroyed that Iwa army 3 years ago, Jiraiya told her patiently. Tsunade actually pouted at this, making him look askance at her. She seemed to be off her game if the mission's failure was affecting her this badly. No, this is something else, he thought, watching her slumped posture and the way she buried her head in her palms. Tsunade, what's wrong? He asked seriously. I didn't expect him to be thwarted, she muttered, not meeting his eyes. I thought he could never be denied something if he put his mind to it. I read Kakashi's mission report, and I know that the impostor used the Kahaku no Juhei dash. Naruto isn't Hashirama. He isn't infallible, Tsunade. He doesn't think the way I would expect Hashirama to think. He's far more emotional than he lets on. And Sensei told me the Shodai was very carefree, but Naruto as he is now is more reserved than that man. Something changed during the sealing, and it created a new person. He's a curious mixture of legendary shinobi and innocent child. Don't expect him to be your grandfather entirely, Jiraiya told her sternly. This life had changed his godson considerably, and even Jiraiya wasn't quite sure of Naruto's true identity despite traveling with him for 3 years. He doubted if even the young man knew, and he wasn't going to prod that subject anytime soon. That issue was going to come up sooner or later, and he could only trust that Naruto would resolve it. It was Naruto's fight alone, and no one else's. Orochimaru bringing Nito-sama back complicated things in more ways than once. It made his old life more dominant in his mind. I wonder how those two will resolve their issues, he thought, grinning pervertedly as a few possible avenues became known to was positively rubbing his palms with glee. Quit thinking whatever you are thinking, Jiraiya, Tsunade told him with some asperity. And you're right. But I still feel I must be able to do my job without depending too much on him. I think I'll take your advice, and give him the same privileges we Sannin enjoy. It must be done fast too. Our shinobi seem to think no one can defeat us as long as we have Naruto around. It's subtle but it's there. You know that's dangerous. Oh, it's dangerous all right, agreed Jiraiya. He stood up, and looked at the expanse of Konoha visible from the wide windows of the Hokage Tower. Especially with the war that will eventually come. Nagato will eventually tire of Naruto denying him the Bija. To even get the Ichibi, he had to come personally. His frustration will eventually spill over, and result in a war the likes of which we have never seen before, Jiraiya predicted gloomily. Not a day passed by when he did not regret for what Nagato and Konan had become. That's going to happen sooner if Orochimaru decides he wants to help things along, and tell Akatsuki everything. We can do little to stop the war entirely, short of taking out the entirety of Akatsuki. She gave a humorless laugh here. But we can slow down its approach. I think I have something that we can do that doesn't need to involve Ajisen at all, Tsunade said determinedly. What? Asked Jiraiya curiously. Tsunade's desire to stand out was admirable. Indeed, one did not get called a member of the legendary Sannin without that quality. Orochimaru and that stupid four-eyed kid, growled Tsunade. We need to take them out of the equation, as soon as possible. We can't kill him. Who knows what contingencies dash? Oh, I know that snake at least as well as you do, said Tsunade disgustedly, stopping him mid-rant. He would have covered every possibility. No, what I meant is this, Jiraiya. He must be rendered unable to act on the knowledge he has. As long as he holds that leverage, he controls when the war will happen. Once the Akatsuki know exactly who they fight, they won't bother with individual extraction missions. They'll plunge every nation into war and death. But how do you want to deal with Orochimaru? Asked Jiraiya with a frown. Capturing and brainwashing him won't work. He'll have surely set things up so that his failsafes are activated if such a thing happens. And the slimy snake is way too hard to capture, anyway, even for me. The only other alternative I can think of is a genjutsu powerful enough to alter his thoughts of the subject. He listed off the possibilities. Tsunade leaned forward, her dejected face now bright with eagerness as she seemed to consider every facet of her idea at top speed. Exactly, she concurred, clapping so hard Shizen jumped. They didn't care, both immersed in their scheming. Jiraiya suddenly saw what she was suggesting, and they both did what they hadn't done since training as children under the Sandaime. The Hokage Tower resounded with another slapping sound as they high-fived each other. Sure says I, they both yelled at the same time. Shizen again coughed politely, presumably seeking to bring them back to ground zero. Jiraiya impatiently shushed her as he looked into Tsunade's eyes, rapidly listing off what they knew. Naruto told us he sensed Danzo's arms covered with numerous Sharingan, and possibly a Mangekyo's Sharingan on his left eye. I just didn't want to believe what Itachi told me in a communication about Danzo doing such a thing, but we must confront it. But reusing it frequently would take extremely powerful life force, on the scale of dash. Send your Hashiramas! Joined in Shizen with amazement. They nodded impatiently at her again, before snapping back to each other. More evidence, said Tsunade quickly. Ajisen told me he could sense his own cell's potency in Danzo after that meeting. The old relic hides it under bandages, but I'm certain that's how he is gaining control over everything. That Jinjutsu is subtle enough to influence the thoughts of absolutely anybody, without them ever knowing of it. The old bastard could have used it on any of us. She fumed angrily, raising her fist and about to bring it down on the desk to her side. This realization was rather sudden, pondered Jiraiya, as he halted Tsunade's rather destructive punch with some effort. I wonder if we only realized all this because, you may just be right, he said, as Tsunade wrenched her hand away from his grip. You may just be right. His influence over us must have weakened, since we haven't met with him for quite some time now. He must have been stonewalling us from concluding what he's hiding, given all the information we have about it. We must do something. He does not deserve to use Uchiha Shursui's eye. Tsunade cut in angrily. Jiraiya nodded emphatically. He too remembered young Shursui's burning will of fire, something that had once given him great hope for the Uchiha clan. It had given all of them great hope. Thinking of one of those eyes in the possession of an old schemer like Danzo repulsed him. A new, truly horrifying thought suddenly made itself known to him. What if he used that eye on Naruto? He asked softly, ignoring Shizen's loud gasp of horror. Tsunade grew still, and her face became pale. I don't think even he is immune to that Jinjutsu, especially if he is not at full strength. Even the Kyuubi within him won't notice the subtle changes in his mind if he is under it, she said in a shaking voice. Inu! Torai! Nico! She called out, and the ANBU appeared on their knees before her instantly. Assemble your squad immediately, she ordered, glancing subtly at Jiraiya. He nodded his support, knowing what she intended to do. He would lead the mission himself if necessary. We need to neutralize a potential S-rank threat. We attempt an arrest, failing which a kill will be inevitable. Who is the target, Hokage-sama? Asked Kakashi, who was under the dog mask. Jiraiya's expression brightened suddenly as a slew of ideas assaulted his mind, but Tsunade shushed him as he opened his mouth to speak excitably. Later, she mouthed to him, and he stepped back sheepishly as he saw the waiting ANBU. This should be particularly satisfying for the boy, he thought with a grin as he looked at Sasuke under the bird mask. Shimura Danzo, Tsunade said in reply to Kakashi's question. Jiraiya shot a discreet thumbs up to Sasuke, who he knew was grinning maniacally under the mask. Vengeance was sweet, he knew, and would know again as he paid Orochimaru back for the death of Sarutobi-sensei. You may deal as you wish with his root members, but he is to be captured alive if possible. Do not damage his eyes, she directed firmly. And don't get too excited, Jiraiya added with a splitting grin to Sasuke, as Tsunade sighed in the background. Deal with this as quickly and quietly as possible. Sasuke stood up, and in a breach of protocol that didn't even register in their minds, threw away his mask. Upon his face Jiraiya saw such a bloodthirsty look that he knew this mission would probably end only in one of two ways: Danzo's death, or young Sasuke's death. I can come along if you wish. Old Danzo might be more than a handful for you lot, he offered, looking at all of them. Sasuke shook his head, and spoke before Tsunade could reprimand him. Jiraiya-sama, said the Uchiha in a voice practically throbbing with hidden tension and bloodlust. You relax? I will take care of this. You will get his head on a tray by tomorrow morning, he promised, not mellowing in the slightest even when Yugugo, who had also unmasked, put a calming hand on his shoulder. Excellent! Find root headquarters, Kakashi, and uproot them, she ordered coldly. I want root eliminated completely. That bit of house cleaning was pending for a long time. Wipe out every root operative, no questions asked, and burn their headquarters to the ground. I want Danzo, and only Danzo. No one, not even Jiraiya or Tsunade, noticed the small spiral of air outside the window, or the fading orange mask as it disappeared into that singularity.